Anyway, we're going to agenda item number 6, which is the interviews, discussion, and possible appointments to fill the vacant MDC RVT position. And here we go. I printed everything out. No, I wasn't sure what I was saying. It was easier that way. Okay, I think that's probably better. All right, I've got the proper file out. So we have three very qualified applicants. We had a number of applications, just to let the rest of the board know. Very good applicants. It was very difficult to just choose 3, but we, of course, had to, and so we have chosen Darlene Geeky, Tracy Mumby, and Leah Schufelt as our interviewees. And there's my glasses. I think we'll just go in alphabetical order. Is Darlene Geeky, there she is. I see her on the participants. Moderator, would you mind promoting her so that we can
Right, it looks like Darlene is on camera. That's working fine. And Darlene, you can mute and unmute yourself now whenever you choose.
Okay.
Perfect. And then Tracy, when it's your turn, the same thing. You can turn your video on and you can mute and unmute yourself as you need to.
Okay. I'm not seeing her on this. Oh, there you are. Okay. Is there a way to promote her to like fill the agenda item 6? Is that instead of having that there? Not.
Yes,
I just meant for the room.
I'm in the midst of changing the view.
Okay.
Did that work the way you wanted it to?
No. Sorry. I just would like her to be the largest square on the screen, if possible.
Yes, I have done that. I have moved her to the stage and adjusted, and then I synchronized my view. Oh my goodness, I see. I have to become the presenter first. One moment.
Great. Okay.
There we go.
All right, fantastic. Yeah, it's not on ours here, but at least it is for the people in the room. And it's not on our personal computers, I should say, but in the room. And Darlene, I apologize for the technical delays, and thank you for waiting through lunch and sticking with us. Welcome. We're excited to have you interview, and so if you want to start and just introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Darlene Geeky, and first I just want to say thank you so much for inviting me to this forum and to interview. It was great collaboration this morning, so it was good to wait around. I have been a technician in this field. I've been an assistant and within the field 29 years now, and in RVT since 2000. I have a very unique path in my field. So I am a sole owner of a veterinary hospital and have owned 3, one being a nonprofit. Yes, so I apologize for not being there today. I wish that I was. I had some things I couldn't move on my calendar, but going forward, if you honor me with that position, I will certainly be there in person.
Great, thank you so much. So if you haven't been through, seen these before, what's going to happen here is each board member will be asking a question, and some of them may seem a little redundant, and apologize if that's the case. And then at the end, every applicant will be getting the same questions. And then at the end, if you can just hang tight, we'll interview the other applicants, and then we'll be deciding on who to pick for the position at the end of all of the interviews. Okay?
Wonderful.
All right. Great. So I think I'm going to start with Dr. Doctor. I always want to call you Dr. Diana. we'll start with Diana. Don't mind starting with the first question.
Not at all. Hi, good morning. Good morning, good afternoon. The first question, tell us about yourself and why you are applying to be a member of the multidisciplinary committee of the VMB.
Yes, well, thank you for that question. Like I was saying, I'm a technician of 29 years experience and very unique experience. I work in multi-species. I have experience in farm animal, as well as zoo medicine, exotics, and small animal. I have also worked in the nonprofit sector as well as in corporate sector. So I have a pretty broad experience. I am transitioning now out of my practice. I did sell. Today is actually my last official corporate duties as far as within the practice. But with that said, I am really applying for this role because my career has really been focused on consumer efforts as well as pet care and in really establishing good veterinary practices. So I want this next venture in my career to be focused on how to better that. We've gone through a lot in our country the past few years, and I feel like I can certainly benefit with my voice and my efforts to be able to make a difference.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, great. I think I'm going to go from my left to right. So, Christy.
Good afternoon and happy Vet Tech Week. So, to the best of your knowledge, what are the functions of a licensing board or committee and the laws governing veterinary medicine in California?
Yeah, to the best of my knowledge, I mean, licensing boards are there to develop, maintain, and really execute professional standards that are protecting our consumers and our pets. As far as the MDC is concerned, you know, my knowledge is that they assist and really advise the veterinary board in California.
Okay, so what do you think is the MDC's relation to the Veterinary Medical Board, and what role do you hope to play if selected?
So the MDC really, from my knowledge, assists and advises on various laws that are brought forth from the Veterinary Medical Board. My role is to hopefully be a sounding voice in that because of my vast knowledge, not only having owned a practice as well as worked with mayors and legislature and making change in our field. I also sat for the California RVT Association on their board as well. So my role in that will hopefully be a collaborative role. I'm really big on collaboration and hopefully coming to a consensus to help move forward the new initiatives that we need in our profession.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good afternoon, Darlene. Yeah, so next question is, the MDC meets quarterly before all board meetings. Aside from the quarterly half to full day meeting, members are typically assigned to several subcommittees, each of which may take an additional 2 to 6 hours per month. Given this information, can you commit to this expectation of time spent for the MDC and fulfill your role?
Thank you for that question. Yes, now that I am transitioning out of full-time practice, my whole goal in the next phase of my career is really to commit to initiatives like this and to give up that time and commitment to a board like this.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much for being here and for your interest in service. My question is,
recommendations made by the MDC are based on its consumer protection mandate, which may be unpopular with the general profession. How do you plan to handle making decisions based on the needs of consumers and their pets despite possible disapproval from your colleagues?
Yeah, that's a great question. Considering that I am an RVT practice owner, which isn't always ideal for some people in our field, I think I have navigated that well. And I think that we have to take this from an education standpoint, just as we would teach our clients when they're not understanding something or not agreeing with something, and we sit there and we educate. I think that when we push forward initiatives that are good for the whole as well as our consumers, which are the most important, because every pet comes with a client, right? So if we're pushing forward initiatives that are good for that, then we need to make sure that we educate the whole as to why we're doing that. And maybe that would, simmer things down and make it more easily digestible for those that might disagree.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, I'm Barry Grant, an equine practitioner from Southern California. Thanks for staying around and going through this effort with us. As an RVT, we assume you're familiar with the current trends in veterinary medicine. But which issues have affected you directly and would like the MDC to address?
Yeah, I think telemed right now is a big topic, as well as technician utilization. That is a big topic for RVTs, and how that's going to be implemented properly. There are a lot of topics coming around these mid-level professionals and all of that. And I feel that, it's our duty to definitely make sure that consumers and pets are protected, as well as that we implement these things properly. So that would definitely be an initiative that I would want to be considered.
Thank you.
Thank you. Diana? We're on number 7.
Yes. Can you think of any position that you hold or activities you are currently involved in that may present a conflict for you to serve as a member of the MDC and thus a representative of the VMB?
No, at this time I do not. I am on the board for the Monterey Zoo, as well as another nonprofit called Fix Nation. And I am the technician medical advisor for a consolidator, but I don't see any conflict with those at all.
Is there anything else you would like to share with the board at this time?
Just that I really appreciate your time and hearing me, and I certainly hope to make a difference and hope that I have that opportunity. So thank you so much. I appreciate all of you.
Thank you so much for your time. Okay, I think next up is Tracy.
Hello, I'm trying to start my video up.
And then if the moderator, if you can move, I think you're doing it, but switch places. Great. Thank you.
Okay, it appears that I am having difficulty with my video.
Pardon?
I'm having difficulty with my video. Are you able to see me?
Yeah, that's okay. We can't see you, but I think we'll just move forward. And I'm sorry, I know how frustrating that is after waiting that long. I have run into the same issues, but just it's okay. I think we'll just go ahead and move forward. Do you want to just tell us about yourself?
Absolutely. First, I'd like to thank the board and the panelists for the opportunity to interview today. And I do feel honored to be on this call with you. I've been active in veterinary medicine for over 30 years and have filled many different roles. I'm a licensed RVT. I got my license in 1995. I also hold certifications as a veterinary practice manager and as a human resource professional. In addition to that, I also serve as an educator for the local AVMA accredited veterinary technology program. And I'm really hoping that my combination of roles has provided me with a comprehensive perspective on the profession and a well-rounded overview of our veterinary standards. Really, as long as I can remember, I've always felt the need to give back to the profession and have tried in many ways to contribute over the years. So some of the things that I've been active in have been participating in several conference panels discussing the evolving role of the RVT. I've been a past subject matter expert for the California RVT exam when that was a thing, and I'm a current subject matter expert for the VTNE through AAVSB. Back in 2016, I had the privilege of serving as the internationally appointed member to the South African Veterinary Council, and that allowed me to contribute on more of a global scale. And during that, our team was tasked with inspecting veterinary and paraveterinary colleges in South Africa to perform a curriculum review and ensure minimum compliance and regulatory standards were being met. So for me, having enjoyed a long and successful career myself, I'm eager to now direct some of my energy toward contributing in a different capacity. And that's where the MDC comes in. I feel like they offer a dynamic space where I can really leverage my experience and help to shape the decisions that not only align with the commitment to consumer protection and minimum standards, but also allow me to inject my own practical perspective into the process. So really for me, it's not just about being part of a committee, it's about actively participating in the collective effort to shape the future of veterinary medicine. And that's a journey that I'm really excited about.
Thank you so much. That answered question number one without me having to ask the rest of it. So I think we'll move on to question number two.
Good afternoon, Tracy. So to the best of your knowledge, what are the functions of a licensing board or committee and the laws governing veterinary medicine in California?
It's a great question. Thank you. I've been following the Veterinary Medical Board meetings and the MDC meetings for quite some time. And I see that the Veterinary Medical Board really has their hands full with a multitude of important tasks. So in a general sense, the Veterinary Medical Board serves as the regulatory body that oversees and ensures the quality and ethical practice of veterinary medicine. But some of the individual things that they're responsible for is issuing licenses to veterinarians and registered veterinary technicians, of course, after ensuring that educational and exam requirements have been met, establishing and enforcing professional and ethical standards, investigating complaints and taking disciplinary action if warranted. I know they have their hands in establishing and enforcing continuing education requirements, working with the legislature to establish rules and regulations that govern the profession, and in a lot of cases, even collaborating with external stakeholders in order to come to the right answers or the decisions that need to be made.
Thank you, Tracy. I have the next question. What do you think is the MDC's relation to the Veterinary Medical Board, and what role do you hope to play if selected?
I see the MDC as being sort of this vital collaborative force within the VMB that acts as kind of a consultative body and also a sounding body to provide specialized insights to inform the board's decision making. If I were to be honored with a position on the MDC, my commitment really lies in leveraging my expertise as an RVT educator and practice manager. And by that, taking my background, which has made me intimately familiar with the Veterinary Practice Act and has challenged my awareness of minimum standards to really bridge the gap between professional standards and consumer expectations.
Good afternoon, Tracy. I'm Barry Grant, an equine practitioner from Southern California. Thanks for hanging around for us.
Absolutely, thank you.
The MDC meets quarterly before all board meetings. Aside from the quarterly half to full day meetings, members are typically assigned to several subcommittees, each of which may take an additional 2 to 6 hours per month. Given this information, can you commit to this expectation of time spent for the MDC and fulfill your role?
Absolutely. I'm fully committed to fulfilling the responsibilities of the MDC. Me personally, I value the importance of regular attendance and active participation in committee activities, and I'm confident in my ability to meet the time commitments. I also recognize that the success of the MDC will depend on the engagement and the collaboration of its members, and I'm prepared to invest whatever time is necessary to fulfill that role.
Thank you.
Hi, Tracy. I'm next. The next question. Recommendations made by the MDC are based on its consumer protection mandate, which may be unpopular with the general profession. How do you plan to handle making decisions based on the needs of consumer and their pets, despite possible disapproval from colleagues?
Well, as I mentioned in my introduction, I am also a practice manager. And I think anybody who's been in a management role knows that we can't make everybody happy and that not all decisions are popular ones. So I've developed a fairly thick skin over the years, and I do have full awareness that the external stakeholders might not always align with our decisions. But regardless, I'm committed to making choices that logically and effectively safeguard the interests of the consumer and uphold minimum standards.
Thank you. As an RVT, we assume you're familiar with current trends in veterinary medicine, but which issues have affected you directly and would you like the MDC to address?
Well, while I don't necessarily want to mimic the last interview, I think my issues are pretty much the same. From a personal standpoint, I see almost on a daily basis the challenges in veterinary medicine that are related to availability and affordability of care. I witness countless instances where pet owners are unable to access veterinary services, and that could be because clinics are short-staffed or there's just a lack of appointments available. And then watching them realize that their only option is expensive urgent care facilities or emergency facilities for the care of their pets. So in terms of the issues that I would like to see the board address, I'm really interested in the initiatives that are already in the works that would enhance the role and recognition of the RVT, because I believe that strengthening their role not only benefits the whole profession, but contributes to improved animal care and has the potential to create greater access for consumers. I'm also interested in the continuing advancements of telemedicine. Again, increasing accessibility to care and really hoping to utilize the landscape of technology that we have to increase the way that veterinary care is delivered and how clients can access it.
Thank you. So can you think of any position that you hold or activities that you are currently involved in that may present a conflict for you to serve as a member of the MDC and thus a representative of the VMB?
No, I don't believe there are any conflicts.
Great. So for the last question, is there anything else you would like to share with the board?
No, once again, I would just like to thank the board for the opportunity to interview and just want to reiterate my commitment to the mission and the objectives of the Veterinary Medical Board and the MDC. I am excited about the prospect of contributing to the MDC's efforts and collaborating with the board to advance the interests of both veterinary profession and the public that you serve.
Thank you so much. And as I said at the beginning, if you can just stay with us. We'll do our final interview, and then we'll have a discussion and make an appointment. So thank you so much for your time.
You bet. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Okay, Ms. Schufelt.
Hello.
Hello. Welcome. Thank you for staying and participating and for everything. I think we'll start with you.
Hi, thanks, Leah. I have the first question. It seems like might be a brief answer, but tell us about yourself and why you are applying to be a member of the multidisciplinary committee.
Sure. I think a lot of you guys know a little bit about me, but I have been in RVT since 2001 here in California. I moved from Michigan after getting my bachelor's degree in veterinary technology. I have worked in food animal as well as emergency and critical care, day practice, and radiation oncology for the last 20 years. And I currently am a full-time faculty member educator at San Diego Mesa College. And so that is my most recent endeavor. And so I think all of those qualifications helped me to be able to do a good job on the MDC.
Thank you.
Hi, I think it's me now. Yes, right? To the best of your knowledge, what are the... Oh, no.
No, Diana, sorry, it's Dr. Grant.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
To the best of your knowledge, what are the functions of a licensing board / committee in the laws governing veterinary medicine in California?
Sure. So the Veterinary Medical Board would be the regulatory agency for veterinary medicine in the state of California. Along with those things, also does licensing of veterinary technicians, veterinarians, and veterinary assistant controlled substance permit holders, and also does complaint, serves the complaints of consumers in the area, but the main goal would be to serve the consumers of California, and we do that by serving the pets and the profession. And the role of the committee to the board would be to be an advisory board, or excuse me, an advisory committee to the board to discuss items of importance to the board.
Thank you.
Okay, you're up.
Yes, I was so excited. And what do you think is the MDC's relation to the Veterinary Medical Board? What role do you hope to play if selected?
Sure. So the MDC is a body of the board that does a lot of the on-the-ground legwork, back-scenes work with its subcommittees to further look into issues that are in front of the board. And so the board will give direction to the MDC of things they would like discussed further, and then the MDC puts together recommendations that are discussed at the MDC level and then brought forward to you all as the Veterinary Medical Board to help make informed decisions on the tasks in front of you.
Thank you. The MDC meets quarterly before all board meetings. Aside from the quarterly half to full day meetings, members are typically assigned to several subcommittees, each of which may take an additional 2 to 6 hours per month. Given this information, can you commit to this expectation of time spent for the MDC and fulfill your role?
Absolutely.
Recommendations made by the MDC are based on its consumer protection mandate, which may be unpopular with the general profession. How do you plan to handle making decisions based on the needs of consumers and their pets despite possible disapproval from your colleagues?
Yes, so I was also in a supervisory role for many years within the veterinary hospital, and now I'm the teacher. So I completely understand, decisions that are made on different levels that may not always make sense to others, whether it be in the profession or in the classroom. So I think the biggest thing with that is communication and helping those people understand why things have to be made. And at this board, our role is to protect the consumers. I'm always hopeful that by doing right by the consumers and the pets, we're also helping veterinary medicine, but, you know, explaining all of that to somebody who doesn't quite understand can be a challenge, but I think it's an important part of what we do.
As an RVT, we assume you're familiar with the current trends in veterinary medicine. That's an understatement, I guess. But which issues have affected you directly and would like the MDC to address?
Sure. So obviously a lot of them have affected me in my current role, but other than that, I think outside in the profession, the telemedicine thing is very important for us, but I look at it as something that it can be very exciting to use new technology, but I want to go about it so carefully to make sure that everything's done the proper way to help our consumers and our patients and medicine. And I have the background to know how important it is that we don't jump ahead on things, and that these steps we take as the MDC and the Veterinary Medical Board are so important, as frustrating as it can be yesterday or even today to work so hard on something and then have to take a step back and say, give it a few more months. It's hard for all of us, but we need to make this right the first time and make sure it's understood and able to be moved forward. So that's one thing that I think, you know, we need more work on. Of course, RVT education is a passion of mine, as well as the profession of veterinary technicians within the larger veterinary medical landscape. And so those things are very important, and many other things that we've talked about, you know, along the way.
Great, thank you. Can you think of any position that you hold or activities you are currently involved in that may present a conflict to you to serve as a member of the MDC and thus a representative of the VMB?
No.
Is there anything else you'd like to share with the board?
Sure. Just thank you for having me here for an interview. This would be my reappointment. I've been part of the MDC for 5 years, and I have enjoyed it greatly and think we do great work. So thank you all very much. I would be honored to continue on.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Okay. So now it is, this is always really difficult, and we have 3 really good applicants for, I think, different reasons. Yeah, Dr. Solicito.
Yes, so I just wanted to maybe get the conversation started. In my experience of hiring people and building teams, one of the things that I always remind myself through the years is looking at the candidates, but also knowing that we may have a best candidate in mind, but who would be the best fit in the team that we're putting together. And so I just wanted to share my thoughts regarding our candidates. Everybody's great. I feel like anybody would be a great addition to the MDC. Starting with Darlene, I have to be honest, I've had the opportunity to personally work with Darlene, and I know she's somebody that is great with ideas, but also are able to actualize those ideas. So I've seen her work. She's, you know, and she will show up, you know, and stand up to the challenge. Now, listening to Tracy, though, I am just impressed how eloquently she's able to express her intentions. And communication is key in, you know, making great teams and moving things. So for that, I feel like, oh, she could be a really great mover, you know, for the MDC. And then now we have Leah, who's been a part of the MDC for the past 5 years. So I know this is like me playing safe, but I really can't pinpoint which one of them I would nominate. But I just wanted to share my thoughts on how I see the candidate at this point.
Dr. Grant?
Well, I agree with Maria's assessments of all 3 people there as well. It's always nice to go with what you've known and people who've already been in the role. I think that's an important factor too, but getting a fresh input is also an important factor. It was interesting that, you know, I was concerned that none of them would have, you know, equine or large animal experience, but that's not the case either. They're very well-rounded people, and they've gone out of their way to be type A's.
Overachievers, all of you. Christy.
Yeah, I agree, and I agree with Dr. Solicito's just very perfect assessment. That was nice and very well said because of all of them. And you, when I heard Tracy speak, it was very nice. She was very well spoken, and I even wrote that note down about being very well spoken. Having been on the MDC for the 6 years, I can speak that the change that happens there and the amount of work that's done, because it is a workhorse committee, it's really hard to have change. And we can acknowledge that I'm new. Dr. Bradbury just left, and I am new. I have not been there for a couple of years. I count as new. Okay, I pay attention. So, but I am new, but I am a newer person to the committee again. I'm old. Dr. Bradbury left, and Dr. Bowler is coming on. I mean, Kathy Bowler, I'm making you a doctor again. It was written in the minutes a couple times ago, so, right, so it counts. And then we're going to start with Dr. Grant, and he has to start from scratch on the MDC, and it's hard sometimes. And I get that this is people maybe recycling through some of these positions, but it is hard to recycle even when you're recycling. It's hard to get caught up on some of these things. So it's nice to have that. We do have it in Marie and Dr. Sullivan and Dr. Waterhouse too. So it is really hard, but I would keep that in mind when we're making our decision. When I was appointed, it took me at least 2 interviews to get appointed, and I believe it took Leah 3. And I think it took Marie at least 2 interviews because it took us coming here, showing our face, and showing our interest. So I think it's important. You show your interest. You show that it's about consumer protection. And I know one of the candidates never mentioned consumer protection, and I think that's super important.
Okay, well, when I feel the same way. As I mentioned, that all 3 candidates bring great things to the table and a slightly different sort of assets. And I would say when I was considering this and listening to each of them, I do consider the makeup of the MDC currently. And to me, it is a large group of fairly seasoned people because you were president of the MDC, chair, and was on it for 6 years, right? Was 6 years, and we have, and you're on it now. We have Dr. Waterhouse, who is the board liaison for quite some time and was a president of the Vet Med board, so understands the issues quite well. We have Dr. Sullivan, we have Marie, and not to discount that more experience isn't good. I think that it's not as desperate as it has been in the past in terms of, oh my gosh, we really can't have change. I really like the different aspects that, in particularly some of the large animal experience, and then with Tracy there was international experience, and looking through her CV, there was a lot of she's on the works with the AAVSB, and writes questions, and that those affiliations are really important. Now, I also heard how Darlene showed up and helped in a situation, and just what a rock star she is. So I am also struggling because Leah has also been there for us and done a lot of great work and is also highly qualified. But we do need to have a nomination. So is there anyone willing to put their neck out there? And I don't see Diana. I don't see you. Do you want to say something?
I do. I just put up my hand. I do want to say something. And I will put my neck out there. Wow, shocking of both. Or not. So echo what everyone has said. And it's always so fun to do these interviews. And what was really, so it's interesting, there was, because I wrote it down, and it was, I'm sorry, I found that. I'm working with a new laptop right now, and so it's harder for me to, okay. That Darlene did say for one of the questions that what she was really interested in, or why she was part of wanted to switch into this, was for consumer efforts and pet care and setting good practices. And so there was, I did hear that someone was interested in consumer protection. And what I did find exciting about Darlene is that I felt that it was, I'm like, I could just sense like everyone was passionate and great, but that this is like a new chapter, an exciting chapter that was going to be focused on and taken seriously, and that it was like a transition, right? As we're also in eclipse season, y'all, just as you know, and there's changes to be coming about. I sense that there was that passion and that vigor and that really intentional change of applying for this because they want to be a part of this, they want to be a part of the change, they want to use all of their different experiences that they've had in their in the veterinary practice to apply that here in the multidisciplinary committee. And so I am going to put my neck out, and I'm going to nominate Darlene Hernandez. Sorry, it's like the biography is Hernandez, and then I see that it changed.
Okay, so you need to make a motion to appoint.
I would make a motion to appoint Darlene Hernandez-Geeky to the multidisciplinary committee.
Thank you, and thank you for always being bold. We love it. I'll second that. So we have a motion. Any additional discussion from the board? Okay.
Nominate another person, or?
I think we have to do the motion and then vote on it, and then we would, if it fails, then we would make a second motion.
Is this how Jim Jordan feels?
Probably. So do we take public comment for appointments?
Yeah, you would take public comment, and then you can come back for a discussion.
Oh, you seconded it. I didn't hear.
Yeah, so do public comment and then come back for a discussion before we take a vote.
Okay, public comment. None in the room. Moderator?
This is the
open it up.
Certainly. This is the moderator, and we're opening the Q&A feature. And if anyone would like to make a comment on the nomination, you may either raise your hand by clicking on the hand icon, or you may look for the question mark icon and type the word comment in that text box and click send. And we do not have any call-in users, so I don't have to use those instructions. But anyone who chooses to speak will recognize you, and you'll have 3 minutes to speak. Are there any requests for comment on the first nomination? And I do not see any requests for comment. Shall I close public comment for this?
Yes, please.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes, any additional discussion before we vote?
Yeah, well, what are the rules? We're voting for one person. You have to get a consensus from 7 of us.
Okay, let's
So
go ahead and,
there's only 6 of you, so we need 4.
okay. Let's take a vote.
Dr. Solcito?
Yes.
Dr. Grant?
No.
Dr. Noland?
No.
Ms. Pulowski?
No.
Ms. Prado?
Yes.
Dr. Bradbury?
Yes.
We're at a tie, 3-3. The motion dies.
Okay, so that motion dies. This is a bit like Jim Jordan, I think. Do we have another motion? Dr. Grant?
I would move for Leah Chaffo.
And I'll second that.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Can I add that,
Sure.
wow, 3 amazing candidates. I got to be honest, I'm pretty, back on my heels. I can remember when we used to hardly have any. I mean, it's just remarkable. So this is in no way trying to diminish the amazing people that have come forward.
Okay, so we have a motion on the table. Public comment in the room, seeing none. Public comment online.
This is the moderator, and if anyone has any public comment on the second motion, you are welcome to either click on the hand icon to raise your hand or click on the question mark icon, type the word comment into that text box and click send. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to speak. Any comments on the second nomination? And I see a raised hand from someone logged into WebEx as Jeff Pollard. Jeff, I'm going to send you a request to unmute your microphone, and you'll have 3 minutes with a 15-second warning. And you're unmuted.
Hi, folks. I was, excuse me, incredibly impressed by all 3 presentations. I don't know Darlene, don't know Tracy. I know Leah, obviously, for having worked with her personally and served with her personally on the MDC for many years. I can't imagine what happened in the last 10 years. Dr. Noland just recently referred to this, when there was a time when we couldn't get a candidate. And now we have, my gosh, so many candidates with such qualifications. I do not envy any of you to make this decision. So, excuse me, as often is the case, whoever doesn't get picked, I would implore you to reapply, because that counts. And I'll leave it at that. My bias is toward Leah, but I think you know that I'm biased. Thanks.
And I do not see any other requests for comment at this time. Shall I close the public comment feature?
Yes, please.
Thank you.
Any additional discussion? Okay, take a vote.
Okay, so it might be close to Jim Jordan, but hopefully doesn't go as many rounds as McCarthy. So, Dr. Solcito?
Can I abstain?
Yes. Dr. Grant?
Aye.
Dr. Noland?
Yes.
Ms. Pulowski?
Yes.
Ms. Prado?
No.
I'm sorry, was that a no? Yes, okay. Dr. Bradbury? Don't make a liar out of me, please.
This is really tough, and I know discussion here. It's just hard. Say yes.
Motion carries. Congratulations, Ms. Schafelt.
Obviously, this is a very difficult decision for us because both Tracy and Darlene. You're amazing candidates, and we really would like to see you again. Thank you so much for applying.
I'd also request that you apply to be an inspector for the board as well, and we can send you that information.
I really appreciate the kind words from the board. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Maybe we could replace myself with one of them.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, and you have a good day. Thank you so much. Congratulations, Leah. This is always an awkward thing, so please understand and thank you. It's pretty amazing. Yeah. Okay, well, we are now going to move forward to agenda item number 7. So this is going to be an update, discussion, and possible action on pending regulations. And we have Jeff presenting. Hello.
Hello. Thank you, and I hope you guys are all having a good day so far. Currently, we have 6 rulemaking packages that are that were approved by the board pending the rulemaking process. With the first one in the list, if you see that the attachment A, 7A, will be the RVT Education and Experience Package.
Can you hang on just a second? Moderator, can you hear him?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Thank you.
I'll speak a little louder.
Thank you.
So, repeating what I just said, we have 6 rulemaking packages that were approved by the board through the rulemaking process. There are various stages, including the initial and pre-review stages of those packages. Starting with the first package on attachment 7A, we have the RVT education package, which will reduce barriers to veterinary licensure for RVTs by allowing RVT education programs more flexibility in designing their programs, by only requiring them to have the minimum of the 20 semester units, 30 quarter units, or the 300 hours of instruction based on the specific categories within that CCR section 2068.5. In addition, the board is eliminating the requirement that the experience be completed within 5 years, so it gives the RVT applicants more flexibility to get credit for their education, as well as reducing the 24-month time limit for RVT students to complete the clinical experience, which includes 4,416 hours. Right now, as of last week actually, we have a total of 2 letters of support, one from the CARPTA and another one from the San Francisco SPCA. We haven't received any opposition or any other letters opposing the proposed changes. The next package after that is the uniform standards. We did get just some updates actually yesterday. It has, and you won't see it on this attachment 7A, but it has been approved by agency, and so it will be posted with the board as notice to all interested parties next week on the 27th. It has been submitted to OAL for their posting for that package. So it'll initiate the 45-day comment period, which again starts on the 27th.
Sorry, I just, offhand, this has just been going on for so long, so I'm very excited about that. Thank you.
We're trying to get them pushed on through. So yeah, that one took a while to go through the agency, but yeah, again, we just got it approved yesterday, and the 45-day period will start on the 27th. With the next package after that, the RVT vaccination and administration package, that one expands the scopes of the RVTs acting as the agent of the supervising, as an agent of the supervising veterinarian in performing animal care tasks related to vaccination administration or medications for the control and eradication of parasites for animal patients. It also requires the RVT to examine the animal patient obtain and evaluate the animal patient's history and administer the medication in accordance with the manufacturer's recommendations, as well as document that information in the animal patient's record. This would also require the RVT to be under the direct supervision of a licensed veterinarian, as further specified in the proposal. And it would also notify that the supervising veterinarian is the responsible control for all acts of the RVT. This one is currently pending review from the DCA director, and once that gets approved by the director, it'll go to agency for their review, and if it's stamped approved, it'll...
It's my understanding the director approved it, and it's with agency at this point, but the concern is SB 669 was signed, so it would supersede this regulation package. So I'm just trying to figure out what the board wants to do at this point.
Yeah, I was wondering, I was going to let him finish, but that makes sense to bring it up now is fine. I was going to let you finish. I didn't understand why that wasn't mentioned in the memo, since that obviously is a big thing. So I think we'll just let you finish, and then we'll go through and ask our questions, and because then we'll have to take public comment at the end of each one. So I think we'll just go through it all. We'll ask some questions, and then.
So we'll place that one on hold pending further review based on the bill.
We'll talk about it at the end of your presentation, and then decide what to do. Thank you.
Okay. And for the next package on the list would be the minimum standards. Based on the conversation today, we'll be combining the minimum standards for the veterinary premises and also the shelter minimum standards into one package. That will need to be re-reviewed as well through budgets to see if there's any additional impact that may impact consumers or the professionals as well. In addition, as noted, DCA Regs Unit had identified further issues with that initial package that will be addressed, and they're going to be working with the alternate premises subcommittee on potential revisions to the text. The next package after that is the veterinary graduate student exemption and RVT eligibility package. And that one is the package that would permit the veterinary graduates who have earned a medical degree to apply to the VT&E and earn an RVT registration. That proposal would also clarify that the RVT or the veterinarian students in their junior and senior years and not graduates may perform RVT animal health care related tasks. At this time, we have reviewed the internal processes for the RVT registration and are in the process of developing proposed regulatory language for licensure requirements to be brought to the MDC for their review and input and consideration. And the last package with the drug compounding, based on the discussion today, we will put that on hold until January, and we'll pending further development of that package.
Great, thank you. Okay, after reading over this, I had a kind of 4 things that I just wanted to bring up and ask. So the last one that you went through in the meeting materials, it says since the July 2023 meeting, the legislature has passed SB 669. Which only permitted RVTs and not veterinary assistant controlled substance permit holders with the ability to drug compound. And as a result, the board is asked to review the attachments. So I went back and reread SB 669, and I don't see any mention of that. So I'm just wondering, what does 669 have to do with drug compounding?
It may have been a misnumber on the bill that I was trying to reference. I'd have to re-review that to give you back a proper answer.
Okay. I think, Chris?
Go ahead.
I think, Christy, you're involved in this part, right, with the memos and reviewing all of the meeting materials. Do you know what it was about?
Well, I think he was trying to reference the bill that was supposed to add the veterinary assistant permit holders to authorize them to do drug compounding. So that was supposed to be what we were trying to cross-reference here, but that was not successful. So that was what we talked about earlier today.
So why was the memo, why did it say why did it refer to SB 669?
I didn't write that, so I couldn't tell you.
Okay, so when you reviewed it, it didn't?
I didn't see that, no.
Okay. So that's maybe a mistake, is what we're deciding. It's probably a mistake in the memo.
Correct.
Okay.
Can I just clarify?
Yes.
So there wasn't a bill to add VACSPs at all in there. That wasn't in existence. There's a current law that allows veterinarians and RVTs to compound. The board was trying to get ledge proposal through that to add them, but it was not picked up by anyone. So there was no current bill. 669 did not have anything to do with the VACSPs. I think that was just an error, but to clarify too, to what Chrissy had said, there was no bill. It was just a proposal that the board had requested. It was unsuccessful, and so now we just have to move forward.
Okay. And that, as you said, is being put on hold anyway, so after a lot of very good discussion. Okay, my second question, and then I'll open it up for other people, but which, Christy, you brought up, 669 supersedes the regulation that we were pushing through.
Correct.
And then also just to correct for the record, in the language in the memo, it says the regulation package was submitted to the director and the agency for review and approval. And it was, I believe, just submitted to the director, not agency at that time. Maybe it's moved on since then, but it goes first to the director, then after approval goes to agency. So I just want to make sure that that is clarified for the record. And I think that since all of this has basically been superseded with 669, we would want to probably pull that back from, well, I guess agency review.
Agency right now,
yeah. Okay, so I think that was my only comments there. And then on,
Sorry,
yes,
I think
please.
we also should just pull it back and then perhaps put it back to the MDC to see what, if anything, should be salvaged from that package to move on, just so it's not off everybody's radar.
Okay, I think that they can look at it and see if that makes sense. We'll see if everybody else is okay with that. Not seeing any, okay. For the minimum standards, you kind of touched on the further issues, and that really, I know what those further issues are being on the executive team, but I just would like it if we maybe were able to just briefly clarify what those further issues are.
Sure, just real quickly, our Reg Council, upon additional review, found that it currently conflicts with Title 24 building code standards, and so we're researching with OAL the next steps moving forward. So we'll hopefully bring it back in January.
So if I could just clarify that the Title 24 standards are board building standards that were adopted in 1988 by the board. They replicate largely what we have in Title 16, Section 2030. And so the non-duplication and consistency standards are implicated, so we'll need to figure out how to resolve those issues before anything can move forward.
Yeah, and I think that it isn't just with us, right, to resolve it. Has a greater issue.
There's other external agencies involved. We're consulting with them to see what to do, and we want to bring back a solution. So I don't want to get too deep in the weeds on it because we don't have the solution right now.
Okay. Yeah, that's great. I just wanted to kind of the further issues being kind of nebulous.
Correct.
And that's great. Thank you. And then lastly, I had a question on RVT examination eligibility, and it just was a thought that came up after going to AAVSB and the VT&E. Is this going to be acceptable to the AAVSB as a, have we looked at that? If we pass this, are veterinary graduate students going to be allowed to take the exam?
I can research that question and get back to you.
Okay. Those were all of my comments and questions. Dr. Grant.
I had just a question about the description of the veterinary students in the junior and senior years. I feel that's rather non-specific because depending where they're going to veterinary school, even though they may be American citizens, they don't often refer to them as junior or seniors over in Glasgow or Germany or anything else. It's like the last 2 years, and yet there are some other places where people go to veterinary school where that veterinary school is not really accredited, and a junior and senior student might only be the equivalent of an American or Canadian, whatever, school, being first and second year. So I would think it would be better if it was a little more specific. I'm not quite sure what language in there, but junior and senior is kind of an American term.
Jessica?
Yeah, so just a couple things. One, this is just an update of the current status, and the board had already approved that this specific package has been pending for quite some time, and so that it's not providing the actual language. And so we can go back and look at it, but I would recommend that we continue through the package since it's already been approved through the board. And then when we put it out for public comment, it becomes not clear to any of the stakeholders, we can address concerns at that time as well. But there's plenty of time to keep going, but for the purposes of this board agenda, it's just an update on the status. It's not the actual language of what it is.
Okay. I don't see any other questions. Public comment in the room? Seeing none. Moderator, would you please open it up for public comment online?
Certainly. If anyone has any comment on the reviewed items, you may look for the question mark icon, click that, type the word comment and click send, or you may click on the hand icon to raise your hand. Each speaker will have 3 minutes with a 15-second warning. Are there any comments on the discussion? And I do not see any requests for comment. Shall I close the public comment feature?
Yes, please.
Thank you.
All right, great. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
So with that, I'll excuse myself unless the board needs me for anything else.
I think that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank
yeah.
you.
Okay. I think actually we'll have time to go through 8. Dr. Nunez is for the AAVSB is I think available between 3 and 4. So I think we have time to get through 8. So next up, update and discussion on 2023 legislation impacting the board, DCA, and or the veterinary profession.
So I'm not going to go too much into detail on all these since that we're at the end of the legislative session. I just want to point out, and I did provide updates in the memo itself, AB 1399 and 669 were approved and signed by the governor, so they are effective, as well as the other bills in A. So I do want to update after the board meeting when the board discussed SB 669, it still shared its concerns that it conflicted with state and federal regulations, and that the second that an RVT provides the services that are now allowed under 669, they are going to be in conflict with state and federal law. We shared those concerns during the hearings. We also subsequently, the executive committee and I and Tara met with the governor's office and shared the concerns, and then the governor recently signed SB 669. And kind of tailing back into the prior memo, the reason it wasn't in the memo about the signatures is because it was signed after the fact that the memo was posted. But so the governor did sign SB 669. As far as implementation goes, the team now will create some outreach materials. I think that especially when it comes to Assembly Bill 1399, there should be some FAQs developed related to telemedicine and the impacts of that, as well as 669. I think we should share some concerns that the board has with it to be as open and transparent as possible of the concerns that we have. And I also did want to note, the other comment I wanted to note, I provided a link in the memo under 8B1. This is a resolution related to animals, overpopulation, spay and neutering services. This resolution was unsuccessful, but it'll likely come back, I would think, by next year. The main thing I wanted to point out is just some concerns that have been raised by Senator Eggman. She had made some comments related to unlicensed individuals being able to provide spay and neutering services. I think it sent a message to not only state boards, but the associations of things that they're looking at coming through. And so I just wanted to alert the board of the comments that were made. I, again, provided a link to that comment in the memo. But other than that, if you have any questions or comments related to agenda item 8, I'm happy to take them.
Yes, Christy.
Well, I'm highly offended by those comments, and you know, I'd reached out to you about them because I think I think coming from our own officials, it's offensive to say that veterinarians and the veterinary profession it's almost saying it doesn't need to exist. And so I think that it should not, I understand that there is an access to care issue, but there is an access to care issue throughout our health care, and with human health care, with veterinary health care. We are not saying that we should go out and perform medical procedures on humans, so why should anybody get up there and say that it is okay to do it on pets, and without a degree and without the medical knowledge? And the things that are trying to be pushed forward just because access is not, we have not resolved the access to care issue, is not a consumer protection. That is not making it best for consumers. And it frustrates me, it makes me angry, and I think it's our job to make it, we need to do better. We need to do better to make this known and to put it out there that this is irresponsible. So we need to make sure that we are protecting our consumers and making sure that these comments are not acceptable. So,
thanks. Jamie?
Well, I did go ahead and watch the comments that were made, and it reminded me of way back. I hate to age myself, but way back in the day when breeders and other people would be doing these procedures, and we would see the ramifications and try to fix things, you know, and so it's almost like we're going backwards quite a ways, and it was pretty shocking to me.
Yeah, I had an opportunity to watch the video as well, and to me, it's alarming, and it's, to me, seems very misinformed, and I believe the intentions are good, so I think that we need to remember that the intentions are to help more pets, and I think that there is a perception in the world that, you know, and I think probably corporate medicine has, and the incredible price hikes that have gone on for care of pets, and which has really priced so many people out of care, is not helping the perception of our profession. And I think that the people that are making these decisions and writing laws are not very well informed about what it is we do. I feel like if any of them were willing to come and watch a spay procedure in a Labrador Retriever that was overweight, they may have a different opinion, and I think I would invite them to reach out to any of us that are practicing to if they would like to come visit a clinic. I believe that it really is just misinformed, and they don't understand. And I think, unfortunately, we don't have a large voice at the board. We don't have a lobby, but I do think we have to, at least say something. So I'm glad that we are making these statements here today. I think that that it's not protecting consumers, and it's not protecting these poor animals that are going to be the victims of people who are poorly trained and unable to deal with the consequences of what they're doing. So my fear is that this push is going to continue, and with 669 at the forefront of it. And like you said, I think we're going backwards, but eventually I think it'll come full circle when there's a lot of animals that are harmed and consumers that are devastated when their pets are dying and seriously injured. Any other comments? Christy.
Which I guess leads me back to 669 in that I am concerned that people are going to be, great, it's signed and it's now in law, right? So now what do we do? How do we handle this when it's, can we react quickly to this? What can we do? I'm not sure if I understand your question.
Well, I feel like because regulations around it?
Well,
or?
No, but I mean, even FAQs about this, because I feel that it's our job for the public and for the profession to answer the question that if you do this, this is still illegal. So it's making sure that everybody knows that we're still in a middle ground.
It sounds like you're volunteering for an MDC subcommittee.
Yeah, I don't care. I will always do that. You know that.
I mean, I think that's a reasonable thing to do, is to start a subcommittee looking at this new legislation and FAQs maybe surrounding 669 and 1399.
Yeah. Another potential option as well is during our strat planning session on Friday, we can raise this issue and potentially look at solutions through legislation, through maybe our sunset bill as well.
Yes, yes. Just to the question, I think in regards to 669 and also 1399, in terms of like what can be done, both of those actually have, what's the word? I just had it in my head. They have teeth, meaning that if an RVT does something, they can either be criminally fined, and I just saw it, but then I went to something else, and then the same in the other bill. So both bills have have teeth in them, is what we would say legislative wise. Like whenever anyone's asking me, like, oh, what do you think of this bill? And I was like, well, it doesn't have any teeth really at the end of the day. And then yes, and that's exciting. Exciting that we'll still discuss on Friday more mechanisms. But just to that quick question of what's going to happen, there's mechanisms in place in the bills already to be able to have an enforcement mechanism should something terrible happen.
Great. I maybe if you can email me what you're seeing in 669, that might be helpful. I'd love to see that. Or maybe email Jessica.
Yeah. So just Ms. Prado, just to focus on what the board's main opposition was in 669, is that if RVTs perform the services that are now in 669 without the oversight of any veterinarian, without the veterinarian looking at the documentation and administering the vaccinations, they are actually violating state and federal law. And so that conflict exists currently, and that's the concern.
But I think we also just need to help with the FAQ type things for like 1399. Like it's a lot of change. So I think us looking at it as a group, but we'll talk about that on Friday too. And your legal mind will be really helpful for us in being able to interpret some of the legalese. So thank you. Jamie.
Can someone clarify when 669 took effect? Is it the date it's signed by the governor, or is there another date on it? I didn't notice.
So for legislation, most bills will take effect January 1 of the following year unless it's specifically stated otherwise. So typically in trailer bills, they're signed upon signature by the governor. That's why 143 was effective the date that the governor signed it. And if you have an urgency clause in a bill, it'll take effect upon signature. But since this bill did not have either, it takes effect January 1.
And do we have any sort of a plan by which to try to mitigate the differences between current regs and this?
Yeah, so as I said in the beginning, the plan would be, especially for AB 1399 and 669, is to create outreach materials to educate all of our stakeholders and licensees on the impacts of both bills, perhaps create FAQs, and specifically state the concerns for 669. The concerns in 669 cannot be fixed through outreach materials themselves. We're going to have to either pursue with potentially a legislative change to address the conflicts.
So until then, since the state via our legislature has spoken, does the board have any plans to refrain from prosecuting RVTs and veterinarians that are abiding by 669 and not necessarily the letter of our law also?
So I would never come out and say we're not enforcing specific laws of our act. But keep in mind that the board receives roughly 1,800 complaints a year, and we don't have the resources to go proactively enforce violations. But we get a number of complaints that go and by prioritization and take some time to get through the process. So if hypothetically we received complaints in January when this took effect, that this happened, because that's how we would be notified of the complaints received. And it would go into the pending list of cases, and we would get to it as soon as possible, given the resources. Likely it would take some time. It could be based on that time period that we are able to get to it, the issues could have been rectified. So depending on what the complaint is, what specifically was done, the knowledge of the RVT, all the factors considering it, we'll have to take it case by case of what's going on.
It seems to me it would be hard to develop a prosecution when we have this sort of dilemma of one law in direct conflict with another. No comment on that, huh?
I just raised my hand again because I just needed to, I was incorrect. I read something incorrectly. And so there is no enforcement mechanism at all for, it's exactly what you just asked of how can we, how are there two different laws interplay and how can you enforce something that then another body says you can't enforce, right? That's exactly what we're at, so.
So to be clear, it does not say that we cannot enforce other state and federal laws. In fact, we are in charge of enforcing state and federal law.
Well, this is going to be fun for Friday. right? This is why we're here, y'all. I'm like, hooray. Anyways, but yes, I'm like, I was wrong. I just needed to say that. I'm like, I was wrong.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a challenging situation that we've been placed in by this legislation. So, okay, well, I think that's a lot of comments from the board. Thank you for the participation. How about public comment in the room?
Bonnie Lutz. Yes, I just want to really encourage you to get the FAQs out as soon as possible. I am hearing things that are really scary to me, and I'm hearing a lot of veterinarians, and a lot of this is coming, it seems to be coming through some of the corporates, not the ones I work for, but some of the corporates, where they're calling me and they're telling me, you know, veterinary medicine is completely changing. The RVTs are going to be able to do spays and neuters. I mean, it's crazy. And that's the word that's getting around, and people are actually calling me to tell me that. I mean, corporates are calling me to tell me so that I'll know, so that, you know, okay. So I think it's great that you're getting on this quickly. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Dan Baxter from the CVMA. Just as a quick update on our side of things, on AB 1399, we've commissioned a telemedicine task force whose specific charge is to, in advance of the January 1st go date, to put out some good information for the profession on how to navigate the situation. So we're certainly open, should you see fit, to exchanging information with you towards the common goal of informing the profession. And then with respect to Senator Eggman's comments, we too found them very troubling for the reasons that you articulated. We're trying to get out in front of it. We have a meeting of our best and brightest at our leadership level coming up in about a month to try to talk about doing some proactive things on this. So it's an important issue, very troubling comments with potentially troubling repercussions. So we are on top of it as well, and we're working on it. So just wanted to let you know. Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah.
I didn't know if I could or not. Kathy Bowler. Just very quickly, I just wanted to, again, reiterate from a consumer perspective how disturbing that language was, and that I found it personally disturbing. And I'm always troubled in a lot of the animal community about talking about spay and neuters as if they're like comparable to ear piercing or something. It's such a serious operation with potential complications and everything else that on a male, female, young, old, it almost doesn't matter but to trivialize that procedure, as has happened in the legislature and among other people that I know all the time, is amazing. We've all known stories that even in the best veterinary situation, things have happened, and it's a heartbreaking thing to lose an animal when you go in for a spay or neuter. So to trivialize that has always bothered me, and from a consumer, I just wanted to reiterate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Moderator, would you open it up for public comment online, please?
Certainly. If anyone would like to make a comment, they may press the hand icon in order to raise your hand, or you may look for the question mark icon, click that, type the word comment into the text box and click send. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to speak with a 15-second warning. Are there any comments? And I do not see any requests for public comment. Shall I close the public comment option?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Before moving on, I would just like to request those public speakers, especially Ms. Lutz, and if you do hear things that are troubling or things that you feel could benefit with the board clarifying, if you send those our way, common questions that you're receiving, if you can send that to us so we can help address it as well. And I know Dr. Miller did send me what they were working on yesterday, and so I think keeping the communication open with all of the stakeholders to try to make sure that we're providing the best information possible.
Thank you. Yeah, I did hear a rumor about legislation for RVTs doing spays and neuters in the work, so yay. Looks like we'll have lots of meetings. Okay, so we're moving on to agenda item number 9, update and discussion on American Association of Veterinary State Boards annual conference, and we'll start with Jessica.
So can we confirm if Dr. Nunez is in the attendee list, and if so, if we can promote him? Moderator. I actually don't see him.
I'm skimming through. What is his first name? Is her?
Mark Nunez. Mark Nunez is his name.
Oh, yes, he is here. I'm promoting him now. And Mark, this will give you an opportunity to unmute yourself as you like. And you're muting on, oh, I think you've got it.
Okay. So members, there was, aside from the annual conference itself, there were a number of days prior to the annual conference that had a lot of different meetings, a lot of different discussions. And so I invite anyone who had participated either in these separate meetings throughout the week and during the annual conference to participate in the conversation and share your thoughts and input. I was going in the order, so it was, I was there from Tuesday through Sunday, and one of the first things was regarding the VT&E committee, which Dr. Nunez, as a member of the Board of Directors of AAVSB, participated in. I attempted to participate in it, and the part I wanted to participate in, it was actually closed session. So, and then I had to go into another meeting. But I think I'll turn it over quickly to Dr. Nunez to go over, Dr. Nunez, if you don't mind, just going over some discussions, obviously not what was discussed in closed session, but any updates that you have regarding the VT&E committee specific to the California board's request and the other boards regarding the VT&E requested to look at that eligibility policy. And then also, Dr. Nunez, if you don't mind sharing an overview of the Board of Directors meeting and your involvement in that. I do want to congratulate you, Dr. Nunez, since he was appointed for a 2-year term, another 2-year term for the AAVSB. So congratulations.
Thank you. Can you see and hear me okay? Okay.
Yes.
Yes, we can.
First of all, happy Vet Tech Week to all the veterinary technicians out there. You are a vital part of our team and much appreciated. And also, my hats off to the Veterinary Medical Board members to continue along the Jim Jordan references. Oftentimes we see Jim Jordan rolling up his sleeves, but it's the regulators who not only roll up their sleeves, but get work done in government. So keep up the good work. I was in attendance for the annual meeting in the lovely city of Kansas City, Missouri. Next year's annual meeting is going to be in California, in San Diego. So if you've never been to an annual meeting for the AVSB, now is your chance. At the Lowe's Coronado Hotel. Skipping on down to the VT&E eligibility discussion. This all started initially in regards to the eligibility of candidates to sit for the VT&E, and that's the Veterinary Technician National Examination. I know there's a lot of acronyms, not everyone is up to date on them. The current rules of the AAVSB is that in order to take the exam, candidates must have graduated from an accredited RVT program or have been deemed equivalent with educational clinical training through an alternate route program before taking the exam. It was discovered that this was not being uniformly applied to all jurisdictions. And I think that that may have been related to some confusion that the AAV-SB may have had in regards to what each individual jurisdiction's regulatory and legislative laws said can be done, because there's 50 states and 10 provinces in Canada. They're not all the same, and sometimes keeping track of what each individual jurisdiction allows and doesn't allow may lead to confusion, but that's the job of the AAVSB to make sure they have those rules and regulations understood and followed. It was brought to the attention of our executive director, Jessica Sieferman, by a national organization that was trying to get VT&E candidates to pass their exams so they can start to put them in jobs that were opening up across the country. So there was, due to this inconsistency, a letter was written by California and other boards to eliminate that requirement that they graduate in order to have, in order to take the exam, just so that there would be some consistency. Another reason why the letter was written was to avoid the waiting period an RVT candidate had after graduating from a program. They would have to wait for a testing window to open up to take the examination, and that would just be a delay of them getting their license and working as an RVT, which we need them to do because of our workforce issues. And it's only fair to them to be hired as an RVT because oftentimes that does result in an increased pay rate. Another reason was to eliminate different barriers to licensure. It was noted that if DVM students were allowed to take the examination before they graduated, why weren't RVT students being allowed to take the exams before graduating? There was a huge pushback made from the VTNA committee and some members of the board of directors, citing issues of exam security. They were concerned that if you eliminate this graduation requirement, then there would be people that would take the test simply for the purpose of harvesting questions, and that would put the exam security at risk. And there was also concern made by the directors of these accredited RVT programs that it would essentially be setting up the students for failure, in that since most of these programs were only 2-year programs, then by allowing them to take the examination before graduation, they may have only completed 50% or 75% of their program before taking the test, and therefore they just weren't ready. That would increase the failure rate. And a lot of the accredited programs, as a condition of their accreditation, need to meet a certain pass rate for the VTNA exams, or else they would lose their accreditation. The discussion expanded from that by some members of the VTNA stating that not only should the that requirement not be eliminated, but there was also discussion on the alternative route of many jurisdictions be completely eliminated, because they said that there is now online programs that would be sufficient for any RVT candidate to go through an RVT program as opposed to the various alternative route programs. We have that would open up a huge barrel of monkeys. And I think
Dr. Nunez?
Yes.
Hi, I'm sorry. I think we're having a little trouble understanding you. I think you're moving back and forth.
Can you hear me better this way?
Yeah.
Okay. I took off my headsets. Maybe that's better.
Yeah, I think
did you
better.
hear
Yeah,
any?
go ahead. I don't know what else. Yeah, go for it.
Oh, okay. So So there really hasn't been any decision made. Um, the pretty much the opinion of the VT&E committee was sought during the closed session that Jessica wasn't allowed into. That was pretty much the topics that were discussed. The issue is going to be sent to the board of directors next, and they're going to ultimately make a decision on the eligibility issue. Hopefully you heard most of that presentation. If so, does anyone have any questions on that issue?
I have one.
Yeah, Dr. Nolan.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Nunez. I believe that I heard you say that the sentiment was going away from allowing exemptions and going towards letting no one take the test before they graduate. Is that what I heard you say?
That's correct.
I would strongly lobby from my standpoint on this board that access to care and having registered veterinary technicians being allowed to take the test before they graduate will provide better access to care for our state and our consumers. And I think it's very important that that message come back, that we're doing so many things to try to encourage the numbers of RVTs and veterinarians. It's very important, I think, that they realize that even though we don't have that access right now, even if we don't get it for some reason, if it continues to be a piecemeal thing, I would hate to see other states lose it. I think it's really critical, personally.
Yeah, and I agree. And I'd have to emphasize again that this was the opinion of the VT&E committee. That I said it wasn't the opinion of the board of directors. They have yet to address the issue.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I think you're good to go on.
Okay, so that kind of segues into another aspect of the meeting. In addition to a meeting of the board of directors, at the annual meeting, they do have meetings of all the various committees and task force of the AAVSB. And it is impressive, all the things that the AAVSB does. So just to read off the list, the committees that met this week were the Bylaws and Resolutions Committee, the Conference Committee, the Executive Director Advisory Committee, the Finance Committee, the Leadership Development Committee, the Nomination Committee, the Pay for Veterinarians Committee, the Pay for Veterinary Technicians Committee, the Programs and Service Think Tank Committee, the Race Committee, the Regulatory Policy Task Force Committee, the Student Outreach Task Force, and the VT&E Committee. I'll forward to Jessica a brief description of what all those committees do, and she can pass it out to you all. But it really emphasized the importance of California having representation on these committees. The composition of the VT&E committee is mostly program directors of RVT programs. So it's not surprising that their opinions had somewhat of a leaning towards that of educational programs that have concerns about their accreditation that they need to keep in mind, and maybe not be so aware of what's happening in the real world with the workforce demand issues and so forth. So the committees that I think it's really important, my dream and my goal, of course, is to have a representative from California on all the committees, because that's how California rolls. But I think that the most important committees that we need to have representation on are the VT&E committee, the Leadership Development Committee, the Executive Director Advisory Committee, and the Regulatory Policy Task Force. Fortunately, we have Jessica on the Executive Director Advisory Committee, and some guy by the name of Dr. Sullivan on the Regulatory Policy Task Force Committee. So we're very well represented there. We have 2 nominations for positions on the VT&E committee from California, which is excellent. And I'd love to see some representations from California on the Leadership Development Task Force. This is a task force that is charged with identifying, recruiting, and encouraging people into leadership roles at the AAVSP. So they're very influential in getting committee appointments and helping lead the direction of the AAVSP. Again, I'll forward all the committees to Jessica, but if we can get some people onto the leadership development task force, I think that would be a good thing. The other topic that was discussed was there was a big presentation on telemedicine, specifically the virtual VCPR, since California recently passed that. There are now 4 states in the country that allow for the establishment of a VCPR electronically. That's California, Arizona, New Jersey, and Virginia. There's also a VIN news article. I'll forward the link to Jessica in regards to California makes a major veterinary telemedicine policy shift. Lobbyists predict that other states will follow. It's I'm not going to say it's a good read, but it's an interesting read. When talking to many regulators throughout the country and from Canada, the overwhelming response that I got was that these laws, the regulatory boards did not lead the efforts to put these laws into place. They were pretty much thrust upon by the legislature to the regulatory bodies, and the regulatory bodies just did their best to make it as palatable as possible, but it was pretty much a tidal wave of legislative efforts to get these laws on the books. Most of the regulatory bodies were able to get some revisions, some minor adjustments, exemptions for controlled drugs, for example, exemptions for antibiotics, and some restrictions on timeline on when a VCPR must be reestablished. But it does lead to the question on who's really pushing for these regulatory changes, and does this really protect the consumer? Is it really going to be used the way that the legislatures are selling it? Jessica already, last thing was I did win my election. So thank you to all the lobbying efforts from the California delegation that came to Kansas City. We had a lot of fun, and can't wait to see you all in San Diego next year. Any questions?
Dr. Nolan?
Well, this isn't a question, Dr. Nunez, but I want you to know that I did fill out the volunteer form and sent it in. So.
Wow. That's exciting.
Now I think we have 3.
I haven't heard anything back, so don't get your hopes up.
I'll put in a good word for you.
I will also be sending, I can send all members, both the board and the MDC, a link to the electronic form if anyone is interested in applying. I know Ms. Pulowski has applied to the VT&E committee, so we'll continue to push to get representation. Like he had said, I am on the Executive Director Advisory Committee. I also am on the conference committee, and we're working to get more representation. So I'll send that out to all of the members as well. I do want to point out, and I know Dr. Noland was present with me during the Board of Directors meeting. I really need to give kudos to Dr. Nunez and Michelle Shane from Kentucky. I think that this is my first one observing the Board of Directors meeting. It's not widely publicized that individuals can participate. And after hearing a number of concerns, I had encouraged a number of executive directors to also participate in the meeting and watch some of the interactions, because I think the more information everybody has, the better it is, and the better we all are. I can say from watching that, To say it was heartbreaking, I think, would be an understatement. I feel that Dr. Nunez and Michelle Shane are the only individuals who are really at least questioning, trying to find and understand truly what it is that AAVSB is doing and why they're doing it, trying to focus back on the purpose of the regulatory boards and consumers. And there's been a number of operational concerns that were observed that we don't need to get into right now. But I think in a nutshell, it really seems like it was Dr. Nunez and Michelle Shane against the world. It was very sad. And Dr. Nunez, I am so grateful that you are on this. You are just asking questions, very respectful. We can all disagree with each other, but we have to do it in a respectful manner. We can ask questions before forming opinions. And it seems like how it was previously being done is that there weren't much discussion about anything. Most of the agenda items were put on the consent calendar and then not discussed at all. It's unfortunate because a lot of the policies and the procedures that come out of AAVSB are then touted as best practices, and it has impacts on every single board that are under the AAVSB. Thankfully, we also got a couple other members appointed on the board. Dr. Parks from Saskatchewan was appointed, and her name is escaping me, but we got a board member from Kansas also appointed, and I feel that they will bring assistance to Dr. Nunez and Michelle Shane of having more informed conversations and discussions before making decisions. And that's all we're asking for. We're asking for more transparency and to really guide us back to, or AAVSB back to what their mission was. With that stated, I do want to point out that recently AAVSB's mission statement was changed. It used to have mention of the state veterinary boards and assisting them in fulfilling their missions, which is what AAVSB is for, and that was what they are telling the world. Their mission statement was changed recently to remove the state boards from their mission. Their new mission is to support and advance the regulatory process for veterinary medicine, as not to support the member boards. And I think that's a concern. So with that, Dr. Nolan, if you have anything else you wanted to share regarding your observations for the Board of Directors meeting, but I really want to thank you, Dr. Nunez, for sticking in there. I know it's not popular being put in certain situations, but it's necessary, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Kind words. Who would have thought that the Kentucky-California alliance would be so strong?
We're all for it. I really want to repeat what Jessica said. Thank you very much for a very unappreciated role that you play, I think. And I'm really excited that you were reelected and that you have some other members of the board that appear to be, the board appears to have changed in its makeup. I remember very clearly the first AAVSB meeting I went to and how shocked I was at the program, because it really felt like it was a infomercial, very much so. I will say this, I really enjoyed the presentations this year. I felt they were much better and not geared toward salesmanship of certain ideas and products. And I thought that was a step in the right direction. I was fairly critical, and Jessica probably talked me off the ledge a few times. I kept saying, I think we should just leave. I think we should just get out.
During the Board of Directors meeting?
Yes, right, yeah. I just was really unhappy, and then I stopped and thought about it, and she talked me off the ledge, and I volunteered. So I think sometimes it's best to try to participate and be a part of the change for the better rather than sit back and just be critical, which was easier to do at the time. But, you know, I think that we have a lot to offer, and I do think our increased involvement is a really good idea, and I think I'd support that. I did go to the two-day new board member meeting. It was called the board member training, and it was interesting. I think there was some good information there, but I also, it was not fair. I've been on the board for a long time, so I think a lot of it I had received in our training from the DCA when I first stepped onto the board. So I feel like I was very well trained to begin with. There was, it seems that there's a little bit of confusion in the ranks, to be honest, because we had the person doing the training of the board members telling us exactly the opposite of what I had heard when I sat in the board of directors meeting. So there was a lot of confusion as to, what actually is the right policy or even the policy of the AAVSB. So, and there was quite a bit of infomercial information at the training about here are our added value things that you can buy. And I was much more interested in what you provide us as a service and not what I have to pay more money for so that you can make money. So that was a little bit of an issue for me. But anyway, I thought that it was really a great thing that we went and we participated, and I was encouraged in some respects with the program.
Dr. Nolan, thank you. I wanted to ask you, I keep forgetting the phrase that was like the key phrase. What was it? Be loyal, and what?
Yeah. So we went to the do you want to become a member of the board, or are you interested in leadership? And so we had obedience, loyalty, and trust. That's what they're looking for. And they said, well, if you're a real active committee member, it may not make you a really good board member, because being really active as a committee member means you don't have the right makeup to be just a support role. And I'm sorry, maybe I'm not saying it right, but loyalty, obedience, and trust.
Yeah, and so we're kind of skipping around on the updates, but because I was just trying to focus on the board of directors meeting, we have other updates with that. But to your comment, you're right. There was a slide on that, and then it talked about what makes a good board member. And it said, there was a slide that said committee members do not make good board members because committee members are doers. And so I told a number of participants that I'm now going to make T-shirts made and have a hashtag I'm a doer.
Can
I order one?
One thing I would say is that California is a fantastic, it's a golden state. And there are tremendous leaders that come out of California, and I think that different parts of the country are just jealous of us because we're not loved and cherished like I thought we would be. But we are bringing a lot to the table, and we're affecting change. And everything I learned in leadership, I learned from you all, from the people that I've worked with, and so it's exciting. There's a lot of changes going on in veterinary medicine right now, and as Jessica mentioned, a lot of these corporate entities are going to look towards national entities to justify actions at the state levels and the municipal levels. So it's really important that as Dr. Sullivan famously says, that we're at the table to make sure that these policies at the national level are well thought out and consistent with our values of consumer protection.
All right, so I'll add a few more updates because that only got us through I think the first day of the board of directors meeting, and actually only the first half of the day for that one. So after the board of directors meeting, they had the executive director advisory committee meeting, and they had talked about they're going to make some changes to the Model Practice Act and take out and separate what should be in statute versus regulations. And they were trying to get feedback from the executive directors of the best way to go about that. And they were hoping to just separate the two out and not have any real discussion about it. I wanted to know what feedback we had. And there's a number of executive directors in there who had strongly encouraged a lot more transparency when it comes to model regulations that they provide. And And when they're considering making any changes, they should really follow more so what the regulatory boards have to follow when it comes to providing ample time for the boards to weigh in on proposed changes. If they are not going to accept certain suggestions, if they could at least share, acknowledge that they received suggestions. If they don't want them, if they don't want to make them or accept them, acknowledge it and maybe explain why they're not taking it, because currently that's not being done. I don't think they were entirely pleased with a lot of the recommendations we were providing, but just in the interest of transparency and, again, making the best decisions with as many perspectives as possible is what we are pushing for. Another thing that we had talked about is, again, the importance of sharing disciplinary data in the VIVA database for AABSB. So for those of you who aren't aware, in the human health side, healthcare practitioners, if there's any healthcare boards who take action against healthcare practitioners, they're mandated under federal law to report into the National Practitioners Data Bank. And the thought is this, that the state boards will report all their discipline into the data bank, and that data bank, as soon as that's hit, that notification then gets sent to all the other state boards that they have been disciplined. And this is very important because you can have healthcare practitioners who go from state to state and might not provide all the information, especially related to discipline, to other states that they try to get licensed in. There's not a federal law for veterinarians, for the veterinary boards to report discipline. AABSB has tried for years to try to get all of the jurisdictions, there's 63 of them, to report to the database, and they are not doing it. And so that's been really important and something that I have been working to get the word out of the importance of that. And one of that, we have spent the last few years working on a database and interface between our two systems to where we're automatically now providing that data to AABSB, and AABSB is providing data, exam results into our system. There's still a lot of concerns from executive directors of why they would report this data. And let me be clear, this is just public information. Anything that you would look up on our license search page, that's the only information being shared to AABSB. So they had asked the Executive Director Advisory Committee to help spread the word of the importance of it, and to just give you an understanding of how challenging this is. Out of the 63 jurisdictions, only 24 reported discipline last year. So less than half of the state boards in the jurisdictions are providing discipline, and which is concerning because AABSB also provides what they call vault-approved documents. And so if a licensee is licensed in one state, wants to go to another state, AABSB provides vault-approved documents and says what discipline it has occurred, if any, on that record. But AABSB only knows what's reported to them. And so we were talking about this during the committee meeting. One of the executive directors, I won't say from what state, but I won't be taking my pet there, said that, well, I don't understand why I would provide that data. Why would we do it? So I explained the situation where I had, not at this board, but at a prior board, there was an applicant who applied with us. She was licensed in a couple other states. Got letters of good standing. We're about to license her when an ex-husband called us to let us know that she was disciplined in 2 other states because she was diverting drugs. She didn't tell us that. We didn't know it. And we would not have known it if we didn't get the notification from the ex-husband. That can happen. And so so I asked this member if he'd be concerned if, and I talked about a veterinarian who was sitting next to me, if this veterinarian goes and does some horrific things and a lot of patients die, and then goes and applies in your state and does not tell you that they were disciplined, and then you license them, would that be a concern? And he said, yeah, I can see that would be a concern. And then some other executive directors jumped in as well, and with the concern of not reporting and what a huge consumer protection issue is, because he was looking at it, which is interesting because it helps us understand what the perspectives are of why they're not reporting. His perspective was, why should I be doing this for AABSB? And I told him, I appreciate that perspective, because if that's his perspective, that's what we need to focus on shifting, because I'm not doing this for AABSB. I'm doing this for consumer protection, for our mission of what we're supposed to be doing. And so I think with that, they had asked the executive director advisory committee to help lead the executive director session, because there was an overall session with all the executive directors. I think there was about 40 of us during this meeting to help with the explain the importance of it. There were a couple members who weren't willing to do that. We're going to continue to have the discussions, but I did provide an update. There was another meeting, Program Services, where they were providing all the updates of the programs and services AAVSB provides, and I provided a presentation on what it is that we are providing, why it's important. There were a lot of states who were interested. I did provide an update last year, and after my presentation last year, 13 more boards said that they had started the process in joining this interface. Hopefully it'll be more after the presentation I provided during the meeting as well. So that was that. Then it went to the executive director session. This was a 2-day session, and they had the topic in there. They gave a presentation about title protection from the NAFTA representatives and the importance of enforcing title protections. Unfortunately, some of the information that was provided was not entirely accurate because it had stated that California was not able to assess any fines when it comes to enforcing title protections, which is not the case. In fact, you can look at our website and see that's not the case. So we clarified, I think what they were looking at was whether or not it specifically said under the title protection statute that they had ability to cite and fine, and so I explained that a number of states just have a general statute that says that they can issue a citation for any violations of the act. So even if it's not on that specific statute, they have a lot of authority to do so. Other states chimed in and said, yes, that's true. And so there's a lot of states who do have ability to enforce title protections. And they also had put on there that California just recently enacted title protections, which of course we know is also not correct. So I just had to clarify that it's not that we just enacted title protections, because we had it in place for quite some time. But what we did is actually make it, the bill, he was referring to our sunset bill, made it actually more restrictions on there to require the name tag. And so I think that they had just saw that there was recent legislation pertaining to title protection, and they thought that that meant we just enacted it. So I clarified that for them as well. We did make recommendations just for future, anything related to any state, any presentations through AAVSB. If it's referencing any state, then we're going to ask that those individuals at least run it by the state that they're referencing. Because it's not the first time that they've provided presentations where it was just flat out incorrect. And it's really unfortunate because a lot of states take the information they learn from these conferences to go to their state and move forward in that direction. So we'll make the request. We'll see if it solves it for next year. But so far, every meeting I've gone to, we've had to correct what California is doing. So we'll continue. Go ahead.
I don't want to hear after you're done, because, no.
I was going to talk about the VTE committee, or the VTE eligibility discussion in the ED session.
And then I can talk a little bit about the AAVMC presentation if you want.
Yep. Okay. And I haven't got to the conference yet, so I apologize. It was a very long, very exhausting meeting. But it was good. It was good to be there. So I did want to just provide more update and context for the VTE discussion that was had. So it was slated for an hour on the first day for the VTE eligibility discussion. Because there were some 2 Rebel board members who were asking a lot of questions, the board of directors meeting went a little longer than planned, and so it delayed the start of the executive director session. Unfortunately, the hour that was allotted to have this discussion was reduced down to 20 minutes. And I had heard also, so just to back up, where we left off last is the 8 states or 9 states that signed the letter. We had recently asked that instead of removing the policy altogether, that they're CVT graduates, we asked that anyone who had any CVTA accredited schools or programs who verify that students are enrolled in the program, to be those students then be eligible to sit for the exam. And that way we felt we were addressing the security concern that they were saying that someone was going to just take the exam and memorize the questions and sell it. And so we did note that if that was their concern, they have that concern today, because there's a number of states who have all varying types of people who are taking the exam prior to graduation. But understanding that that's what the concern is, we said, okay, if the programs are sending verified enrolled in their program to AAVSB, they then can verify that they do intend on taking the exam and becoming an RVT. We were told that the board of directors, they said that they, at our last meeting, they directed the VT&E committee to look into this issue, get feedback from the executive director session, and then bring all their recommendations back to the board in November. What I realized is that the VT&E committee, although they did have discussions about it, they were not actually provided the letters that we wrote. They were not provided the rationale for what our concerns were, and they were asked to provide input in their thoughts. When it got to the executive director session, the 20 minutes we had left to discuss it.
Jessica.
Do you want to take a break and keep going?
No, they also didn't go to the board of directors, I don't believe.
The two letters?
The first letter did.
The second letter did not.
Yeah, I don't think there's been, no, the first letter did, but not the second letter.
So it got to the executive director session. The CEO of AAVSB gave a quick presentation, said there's a number of member boards who raised concerns with the eligibility requirements. Currently, the eligibility requirements is either they're a CVT accredited graduate or they have the alternate pathways that the board approves, and that's it. And then he said, so member boards expressed concerns about this policy, and with that, I will turn it over to the VT&E committee chair to explain their thoughts and concerns. VT&E committee chair gets up, says that she is, a number of them, or most of them, I think all of them, if not all of them, are from CVTA accredited programs. She said that they talked about it a lot, and they really feel that we're there for consumer protection. They do not believe in lowering standards, and because of that, they recommend not removing the policy. They want to keep the policy as written, and also look at closing all alternate route pathways. And then they said, and that's our recommendation. And then the CEO said, what do you guys think? And we had about 10 minutes left. So the discussion then changed to the debate of the validity of alternate route programs, which had nothing to do with what we were asking about. It is a separate issue. We're just asking about CVTA accredited programs. A few people jumped in to participate in that debate, knowing we had just a couple minutes left. I rose my hand and said, I'm a little concerned and I'm not quite sure where to start. But I do think that there's a number of us who wrote these letters and submitted it, and I really want to thank the board of directors for agreeing to consider it, agreeing to get additional feedback and input from the CVT&E committee, the VT&E committee, and from all the executive directors. I think it's very important to have all of us provide input in such an important issue. What I am concerned about is for you to then come to us and ask everybody in here, which is about 45 or so of us, to then provide input when not one person in this room, other than the letter signers, saw the letter, recognized what the concerns were, or even know what we're talking about. And you're asking us to now provide input. I think that's pretty disingenuous. I think we should table this discussion until the next day and have a more transparent and open discussion, because this is a really important topic. The next day, they weren't entirely pleased with that suggestion, because that meant that they have to start the meeting earlier to accommodate the additional discussion. Told them that, well, I guess now you're gonna have to take your breakfast in, we're gonna have to talk about it. So it started early. The room was packed. Usually not very many people participate in these committee meetings. The entire 13-member committee of the VT&E committee was present. standing in the back. There were a number of board members standing in the back. All the executive directors were at tables. I've never seen a committee meeting so packed. So there was a lot of discussion about it. I think it got pretty heated multiple times. The frustration in the statements that were being made, a lot of it transitioned to just the debate, overall debate of whether or not the alternate pathway is legitimate. And so with that, I do think that the recommendation for the VTE pathway from the VTE committee is to eliminate that pathway. I did make it known because there's a number of states who, like us, have alternate route pathways and have for decades. And there's not any data that shows those RVTs who became RVTs through the alternate pathway are a danger to consumers. And so to say that it's in the interest of consumer protection to now remove a pathway to license is insane to me. And I told them, and I might have got ahead of the board a little bit, but I said, because the thought was there was Michelle Shane from Kentucky, who's a board member, was present, and said that requested additional data be brought. And one of the, she said she was going to take it back and request the data, and I just said, I think that there's a number of states who have this pathway who has been in existence for a very long time. And what's interesting is one of the other states pointed out that not only have we had it for a long time, all you other states who don't accept alternate pathways, you do accept licenses from other states. So if we're licensing them based on alternate pathways, so are you. And so if you're looking at closing the pathway to take the VTE, we, and I think a lot of other states here, are going to look for an alternate exam because we are not going to close that pathway. There were also some data thrown out there. I wanted to start the conversation with data. We did request it be sent out to all the jurisdictions about the difference between a requirement for an examination and the requirement for the license. Out of the 19 states that responded, only one had requirements specific to the examination, but all of the rest of us are for the license itself. And so that's when our authority starts. Our authority starts when they apply for the license. There are not any authority to deny them to do anything else leading up to that. And so there's a concern for those states. If they do deny, what authority are you denying them here when your authority doesn't start until here? So that's a concern. There was also debates of, well, you're just going to set them up for failure, were some comments that were made. The current pass rate for the VTE is 66%. So one of the VTE committee members said, well, what's the pass rate for RVTs for they call it on-the-job training. So on-the-job training is anyone other than CVTA graduates. So it's alternate pathways as well. They said, well, what's the pass rate for that? Because their point was, these people are not going to pass. You're setting them up for failure. Why would we just keep taking their money? So the CEO puts on his sheet. He's like, oh yeah, we have that. It's 88%. And so then the VTE committee chair responded and said, well, that's just an anomaly. And everybody kind of started laughing because it was like clearly they're doing better. There was another VTE committee member who tried to kind of disparage that and say, well, it's a small sample size, so it doesn't really have anything to do with it, which it does because we're looking at that sample size, right? So interestingly enough, after that meeting, I don't think we changed any minds. I think that that's going to be the recommendation to the board of directors, is to not only keep existing policy, but also remove alternate pathway. I did talk to, as you may recall, this all started because a CVTA accredited program came to me and asked for their students to be able to take the exam early, right? That's how it started this all. And that was another thing from the CTV committee chair kept saying, because us executive directors were not program administrators, so we don't have their perspective, and they do, and they're concerned. And so I explained that I'm not just bringing this up out of thin air. I mean, contrary to popular belief, I don't like being put in this position. But this came from a CVTA accredited program, and not just a small one, a rather large one that has 15 programs throughout the United States, and they're asking for it. And he subsequently sent me data out of the 15 states There's one state in Washington that allows them to take it early. That state performs significantly higher than all their other programs who can't take it during school. So it shows, the data shows, and in their perspective, it's actually better for the students to take it while they're in school because it's ripe in their minds and they will be a lot more successful. So I'll be sharing that data with the board of directors and the VT&E committee. No promises on changing minds, but just data is good. So with that, I'll leave that discussion there. And then just quickly to close up, we had the AAVSB program services meeting. There was a NAVLE deep dive. We are going to request a similar deep dive for the VT&E because that doesn't seem to be occurring right now. Then we get to the annual conference. There's a lot of topics that were discussed, a lot of presentations Dr. Nolan will mention. We did do the delegate assembly where Dr. Bradbury was our delegate. They did vote on Practice Act model changes. Unfortunately, this board was not provided it within the 10 days of board meetings, so we were not able to provide any kind of input on their Practice Act model changes, which is unfortunate. We also did nominate, again, the board member from Kansas, the executive director from Saskatchewan, and Dr. Nunez. Presentations were great, like Dr. Nolan had mentioned. There was presentations on veterinary shortages, presentations about shelters and pet equity, spectrum of care, DEI, RVT title protection, holistic medicine. The topics, I think, are definitely improving from when we first started. So with that, I'll turn it over to others.
Do we need to take a break before we keep going? And then, we'll take a 10-minute break, come back at, well, why don't we come back at 4? It's an 8-minute break.
Sorry.
Sounds like we're on. Everybody's here. Great. We'll continue. I think, is it Jamie's turn?
I'll make it very brief. I did want to mention, though, when Jessica did her presentation for the program services, the room was packed, and she used a lot of evidence-based evidence in her presentation, which was, I thought, very good. So you did a really great job, I thought, in that. We also had one presentation that was by two members of the AAVMC, Dr. Julie Noyes and Dr. Heather Fedesco. Julie is the executive director for the Spectrum of Care Initiative, which is a very large funded initiative that has just really been established in the last year. And subsequently to that, I've reached out to them because they are interested in working with us to perhaps brainstorm ways to work together to help us with our Spectrum of Care Initiative and our task force and whatnot. And I'm really excited about that. This email that she returned to me was about a week and a half ago, and I will try to reach out to her right away. I kind of waited till the board meeting, I think, to get this done, but I was excited about that. They have quite a bit of educational resources and are interested in establishing a partnership to advance Spectrum of Care initiatives with us.
That's it?
I told you I was going to make it fast.
Okay. So I guess it's my turn. Yeah. Okay. I'm just going to start with the elections. I think we've lost Dr. Nunez. He had to go at 4, but honestly, we're just very lucky that he continues to want to participate on our behalf. He's a great representative for our state. He's good at being diplomatic yet pointed, which I really admire him, and I've tried to learn some from him, though I definitely don't have all of those skills. During the elections, I just wanted to point out that our very astute EO noticed that the AAVSB bylaws required the nominating committee to submit the nominees to member boards at least 60 days prior to the annual delegate assembly, and they weren't they were sent on August 16th, which was less than 60 days. So they were not following their bylaws for the board election, and we were concerned that if we voted, the results could potentially be considered invalid. And so it was, I wasn't sure whether to bring this up prior to the vote because I didn't want to, you know, be the squeaky California wheel and annoy people and not have them vote for Dr. Nunez. But at the same time, if he was elected, we didn't want later somebody to contest that and say that it wasn't valid. So I did bring that up, and the answer that I received, that we all received, was that the bylaws are actually the rules, and they didn't go by the rules, but if no one had a problem with that, we would move on. And no one had a problem with it. They said you can make a motion to invalidate it. I probably should have made a motion to accept it as it was, but in any case, we moved forward. But it's very disconcerting to be a part of something that's supposed to be holding itself out as the, you know, this is the body that is the standard for boards, and yet they can't even follow their own bylaws, and it's really it's concerning and shocking, and it really had me questioning why they existed and what their mission really is, and I do question that. In any case, for the Practice Act model, I did bring that up before voting, that we didn't have the materials in time to discuss it as a board, and therefore I wouldn't be able to vote on that. The delegate next to me, after my comments, she said she was going to abstain, but we found there was no option for abstaining. It was yes or no, which was also, and they just told me that, oh, we know you're not voting, so we'll just mark it as that. So in any case, we did ask, and when I did bring that up and mention that we wouldn't be voting in California, we asked them to perhaps change the rules if they wanted to follow their rules, but change the rules where it would require them to submit changes to the PAM, that's the Practice Act model, 90 days before the vote. And I think most of you here are aware, but this Practice Act model has directly affected us. We have, I guess, a lawsuit still pending against us that quoted the Practice Act model as, you know, the standard, and we weren't following the standard. So it is important, and we would like that. We asked them to consider making changes to the requirements. There currently are no requirements for a timeline as to when materials would be available. So those are kind of I think the big issues that I encountered while I was there. I would say I'd agree that the presentations, I've only been there once before, and the last time was pretty entertaining in a, I guess, dark comedy way from the telemedicine discussion and our response to that. But this time around, we had great speakers. I felt like there was just really good information. We had the AVMA talking to us, Dr. Faya, the doctor, is it Maccabee or McCabe? Do you know, from the McCabe, sorry, from the AAVMC, which is the veterinary medical colleges. He gave a great presentation. If they have great stats, if anybody's interested in, you know, the percentage of different kinds of students and that sort of thing, and how many students there are, their website has all sorts of information on it. They do have a Spectrum of Care initiative. I think that kind of aligns with some of the things we've been talking about. I won't go into too much of the other, all of the details of the different presenters, because that's already gone through, but I did want to make a couple of points. One is they had put out a mid-level practitioner survey. I don't think we mentioned that here. I don't know if any of you got it. I did get the survey, I think, after Jessica asked them to send it out. This is a survey they sent to various people. Their methodology was questioned during the presentation, but they sent out a survey asking various questions, trying to get a sense of the feelings of RVT, of licensees, and their comfort levels with RVTs performing various tasks, and they're really pushing for this mid-level practitioner. And so it seems like they may be massaging the data. I'm not sure. They haven't totally published it, but the word on the street was that they were presenting it to the board members as if this was something that was supported by the licensees, though it sounds like there was not an equal representation of the various licensee types, but we're still waiting on the data. But this is something that is going to affect us here in California at some point. This is coming. There's a push for that, similar to telemedicine. I don't know how it's going to tip in the end, but we need to, I think, keep our eye on this. And if any of you are seeing information like coming through your feeds, please read it, keep up with it, pay attention to it, because this is going to affect our profession and the consumers. One of the really important things that I learned was a presentation on the rural veterinarian shortage, which there were two people presenting. They were both from, I believe, the USDA. One was a veterinarian and was talking about different avenues that different states were taking to try and lessen the shortage. Talked about some states funding schools with scholarships, state-funded mentorships, state-funded practice purchase compensation. They have one vet school that set aside 6 spots just for people who agreed to go into rural practice. So he sort of gave an overview of it, but then the gal from the USDA NEFA loan repayment program gave a very detailed presentation about the different options that are out there. And I know that this is not necessarily a board thing, but the lack of veterinarians treating our rural communities is impacting consumers in California and the animals. And I think I'd like to just say here some of the details, and I apologize, I know we're running a little late, but they have the original VML LRP program, and I think there's a misunderstanding that this has to be new graduates. It does not. So it is a 3-year initial agreement, and it pays up to $75,000 towards the loan repayment. And then there is also another type of program, which is a rural practice enhancement, which is up to $125,000 for additional equipment, another practitioner, et cetera. That is a program for rural veterinarians that are needing help in improving their practice or just getting started. They've given over $75 million over the last 10 years, so they are, it sounds like the program is working. I don't know how effective it is in California, but it is really dependent on the state vets to nominate, I guess, different areas and then people. And so I wanted to bring it up. It's not something we're obviously going to have any action on, but we have that problem here in California. I know the CVMA has talked about it. So I don't know if the CVMA is aware of some of the nuances of those programs, but I just wanted to bring that up. Aside from that, one more thing. They are having a stakeholder listening session on January 24th, 2024. It's a live listening session about this whole program. So, and then the rest of it was equity in veterinary medicine. We had Dr. Michael Blackwell, which was amazing, come and talk. And I met him, and he's just amazing, talking about contextualized care, incremental care, spectrum of care, One Health. Yeah, I think that was, Saturday we had racism in veterinary medicine and just a very frank conversation about that, which I thought was really helpful. And I learned a lot in that discussion. We had the Vet Tech title protection presentation again, and they had changed their California stats to reflect the truth. And then we had a really exciting and fun Italian doctor who was using Google Glass for inspection. So I was like, oh, is that something we might be able to do in the future? So anyway, I think that the content was really good, but I came away from the rest of it, which was really, discussions with Jessica and Dr. Noland and Dr. Nunez, thinking that we really should start the process of at least exploring another pathway to the testing of RVTs, because that's really they really have that as that they're holding that over us in terms of why we have to definitely work with them. They are running the test, and yeah, so I think I am wondering if that would also be an MDC meeting, but maybe we'll be talking about that in the strategic plan. So we'll leave it at that. But that's what I came away from the meeting thinking, that we really need to start, planning for some contingencies. So with that, any questions from the board? All right. Any public comment?
I just also wanted to, I've been going to those conferences since 2016, I guess, and the content was quite a bit better this time. And again, I want to point to our executive officer, who we are so lucky to have as being very influential, and just even the content change. I think it makes a big difference. We had Dick Sullivan, we had 6 of us from California there, and I think it's always good for networking and everything else, but having an influence and some sort of voice with this organization is huge. It's key, and what we've seen over the years, it's a very top-down run, and not topped by the board, topped by the staff. And the more new blood that gets onto the board, the more of these regulatory boards across the country and Canada engage, the better it'll be for all of us. Yeah, there were a lot of, sort of missteps along the way, but just being there at the table is huge. And Jessica, having Dick on that task force, the Rules and Regulations Committee, Mark in his position, Jessica in her position, it's so helpful for the veterinary profession and for California. I mean, we are the largest state, the largest number of practitioners, and it's amazing how little we're asked, right, for, and a little bit disrespected. So I just wanted to thank Jessica again. The last 4 years of her being involved have really changed everything, and maybe 5, whatever it is now. The other thing is, I was going to mention Dr. Kennedy. He spoke on DEI. He's from North Carolina State. He also spoke about all the things they do to encourage rural vets to get, to apply and to mentor them through and into their career to keep them in the practice of rural veterinary medicine, which is so difficult. So there was a lot of great stuff from that conference. Anyway, thank you. Thank you, Jessica.
Thank you, Dr. Bowler.
Not a doctor.
Yeah, sorry. Sorry, okay. All right.
Public comment on the
moderator, would you open it up to public comment online, please?
Certainly. We've opened up the WebEx Q&A to facilitate public comment. If anyone would like to make a comment, they can either raise their hand by clicking on the hand icon. And note, if you click repeatedly, your hand might go up and down. So I do see some raised hands. Thank you. The other option is to click on the question mark icon, type the word comment in the text box and click send. So we'll start with that. Someone named Jennifer Laredo would like to comment. So Jennifer, I'm going to send you a request to unmute your microphone and then you will have 3 minutes. And you're unmuted.
Hi, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I just wanted to echo the comments that were made earlier in this report on the importance of representation on the various committees. Thank you so much to every member of the board who does go above and beyond, and to our wonderful executive officer. But we know that there is a general lack of understanding of the process. So when these changes do come down the pipeline, some stakeholders are very angry with the board for these changes. So committee members, we know, can only do so much. Board members can only do so much with all of their subcommittees, but it is some responsibility put on the consumer. So the professional associations do a great job, but the licensees need to get involved in these things as well. There are things that come from CVTEA and AAVSB, and because of the lack of representation from California, some of these changes may not be in the best interest of the profession. So I would just like to encourage people to get involved. And Dr. Bradbury, I would like to say that you hit the nail on the head with describing Dr. Nunez as diplomatic yet pointed. That was the best thing I had heard today. So thank you again, everyone. That was my comment.
Thank you. And the next request for comment is from Anita Levy. And Anita, I'm going to send you a request to unmute, and you'll have 3 minutes with a 15-second warning. And you're unmuted.
Said other than just, I share the same sentiment as the president of CARVDA to say thank you so much for representing us there at that meeting with the VSB. We much appreciate your representation and your efforts. I did want to say from a personal perspective, having used VSB in transferring my license to another state, I did want to share a couple things quickly. Another one was when I was submitting my documentation to pursue a VTS, I had to go through their website to get my results and submit all this documentation. When I got there, they didn't have any results for me. And in fact, when I communicated with them, they were very insistent that I was mistaken. I must not have taken the VTNE. It must have been the California State Board exam, because this is back in 2004. They could not find my results. They said that they just kept insisting I was mistaken. I fortunately found my hard copy of my test score, my results, and forwarded that to them. And they were like, oh, okay. And they accepted it, thankfully. But it made for a very difficult time, both trying to pursue the BTS as well as trying to transfer my license to another state. So from a user perspective, this was not a friendly experience. I then did reach out to another person who took the test around the same time I did. She also has no results listed. Excuse me, currently today has no results listed, and their solution for her is to retake the exam. Now she has no intention of leaving California, so she's not going to retake the exam. But there were plenty of people that had that. So I mean, just to add information to your discussions, I don't know if how rare our situations or our experiences actually are. So definitely please do continue to champion for us in that topic. And if you need any further information from me or the other person that I know of, I'd be happy to provide that to you. Thank you again so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And the next person with a request to comment is Nancy Ehrlich. And Nancy, I'm going to send you a request to unmute your microphone. You'll have 3 minutes. Just 1 second. And you're unmuted. Go ahead.
Sorry about that. This is Nancy Ehrlich. I'm with the California RVT Association. My comment is about the AAVSB VT&E exam. The problem that they cause is because they have exam windows. They offer the exam only 3 times a year. And for the RVT schools graduate students at various times of the year, and some people graduate 2 months before the exam is being offered, which it puts them at a great disadvantage. When California was doing the licensing exam, it was offered on a continuous basis. You could take the exam whenever you wanted to, assuming you qualified, of course. I'm not discussing whether they should take people who haven't graduated yet, but if everyone was able to take the exam shortly after graduation, then there wouldn't be a problem with people having to take it before graduation. So I would strongly urge that we ask the AAVSB to consider giving the VT&E on a continuous basis. And if they're concerned about people taking the test and then giving everybody the answers, we did it in California, and I assume it's because the test you give on Monday is not the same test you give on Tuesday, that you have different versions of tests that can be offered so that there's not a cheating problem. That's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you. And are there any other requests for comment? If you would like to make a comment, you can raise your hand by clicking on the hand icon. We have a request for additional time from Anita Levy-Hudson. Any thoughts from the board on allowing her to speak again?
Sure.
Great, thank you, Anita. I'm going to send you a request to unmute your microphone.
Thank you so much for allowing me to speak again. I get nervous sometimes and I forgot something I meant to let you know, and that is as an alternate route, I took alternate route when I was in school, and I literally took it at the time. We were allowed to take it in our second semester of our, or second half of our program. I took that test at the time as practice, honestly, for the California exam because I was more intimidated by the California test. And that was something that they were allowing freely at that time. So that was something I wanted you to know. And then I did continue on in my program and get finish my program. I needed to do it that way because I was able to make more money, and I was a starving student, and that had to be done that way so I could get better pay at the time. Also, our CARVTA board, the California RVT Association board, is almost exclusively made up of alternate route graduates. We're all here because I don't think I need to sell you on the idea that the alternate route is a good thing, but I just wanted you to know that we do consist mainly of alternate route RVTs. And it is such, as you said, an impediment to licensure, not only for the time involved for an actual program, but the cost. These programs are costing, $50,000 to $60,000. 40 to 60 is the range that I'm hearing that it's costing students, and so it definitely will be an impasse for a lot of people there. All right, thank you again so much for the time.
Thank you. And are there any other requests for comment? I do not see any other raised hands or questions in the Q&A. So shall I close public comment?
Yes, please.
Thank you.
I just want to make a couple points of clarification. Number one, thank you, Ms. Ehrlich, for reminding me regarding the exam windows. That is something that the VT&E committee did agree on, and looking at perhaps the possibility of doing it either more frequently or on a continuous basis if possible. So that is something that they are looking into. In regards to Ms. Levy-Hudson's comments regarding alternate route, that is still that has not changed. That is still something that is available. That is something that the state boards, California specifically, and other state boards still allow them to sit for the exam prior to them creating finishing their alternate route programs. what we're specifically talking about are the CVTA accredited students. So we want them to be able to take the exam because there's all these other students who are not students who are able to take the exam. We want the same for the CVTA accredited program students.
Okay. Well, that was a larger presentation than I was expecting. Okay, so we have, just looking at the agenda, we have 10, 11, 12, and 13. I am thinking what we'll do is go through 10 and 11 and then probably table 12 and 13 till tomorrow. So with that, agenda item number 10. Is Olivia here? Yes. Oh, hi. I was like, she looks familiar. Now I remember. Sorry. Hi. Good. Thank you so much for coming for this. Do you want me to do you want to start, or? That would be great.
Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to be here today to assist the board and guide you on the discussion and possible action of the exempt level increase for the position of executive officer. Within your agenda material, there's a justification outlining the growth and complexity of the board, and then the process flow chart, and I'm here to answer any questions you may have on that.
Great, thank you. So I just wanted to have a little summary here. I know you guys all have the materials, so I'm certainly not going to go through it line by line, although I'm sure we could if anybody wants to. Some of you may not know this, but Jessica's already very near the upper limit salary of her current level, so it's pretty close to the upper limit. She's in the lower limit, actually, of the next level. So she's currently a level M, and we are, if we want to request a meaningful salary increase, we would have to increase her level. So if in the memo it goes over this, but just to summarize, in the last level increase for the EO was July 2014, and then in 2017 the board discussed the need to increase the EO salary level, but no further discussion occurred, and that was due to increase in license types, increase in staffing, and increase in workload. As seen in the packet, the board has grown in every measurable area: license population, complaint volume, applications received, licenses issued, number of employees, as well as the budget. One area, the licenses issued, has grown over 200%, with other areas over 100%. The budget is now almost $3 million greater than what it was in 2014. As we're all aware, veterinary medicine is becoming more complex, and we have a growing number of different specialties and number of specialists. There are now many different types of practices, including large specialty referral hospitals, rural mixed animal practices, shelters, racetracks, small animal, exotics only, and at-home euthanasias. There are many new complex issues that the board has been faced with and is responding to, like telemedicine and cannabis use in pets. With the expansion of the profession, the demands upon our board and our EO have increased substantially. Even so, Jessica has been able to increase the efficiency and lower costs in many areas like the complaint and licensing processes. The memo in this packet provides many specific details of the executive officer position for our board and what Jessica has been doing on behalf of our board. It's very clear to me that she's been tasked with a greater workload than her predecessor. She has excelled in her work, and she has greatly improved our board, and I would like to increase her level. Yes, Dr. Nolan.
Just a couple of questions. How did we choose the level L? I know back in 2014 we went from level 0 to level M. Is there some sort of pattern that, and also my second part of that question, so why one step up and not two? And number two, where do the other healing art boards fall as far as their executive directors or their executive officers?
So CalHR does have a scale of exempt positions, and so the next level would be L request. Typically, going above or skipping a level is not good practice, and it does require justification on the reasoning why it's supported to go to the next level, and then if there's room or more growth, then you can ask and request for that down the road.
So back then in 2014, there was no HR directive really insisting that it be one level up instead of two, because we jumped two back in 2014.
So CalHR has put some structure and guidelines in place that we follow and practice.
Okay, thank you. And then the second part of my question is, where do the other Healing Art Board executive officers fall?
It's all over the board. It just depends, and I don't have that information in front of me.
Dr. Grant?
Would that information be hard to get for us as a relative?
No, no.
And how long, if you go one level, how long does it take before a person's eligible for another level then?
It just depends on the salary range. Oftentimes, if it is a great salary range, the individuals that do approve these requests like to see the increases within the salary range until they hit max, and then at that point, request another level increase.
And can you recall what the price of gas was in 2014?
I cannot, no.
And that's, so I guess my question too would be, is there justification because it's been so long? So is that justification enough to go two levels, or do we have to have more justification than that?
It could be whatever the board recommends. We will submit the package as requested, but traditionally they have guidelines in place to just go to the next level up.
Yeah, go ahead.
So just a clarification, that has just been the practice, that if you're recommending an increase, it's only one step up. You cannot just request that we foresee, let's say, that the next step up is really not even, enough for what we think our EO's been doing. So we wanted to kind of set it up, for the next 2 years or whatever. So that's not possible?
It is possible. We can submit whatever the board votes on today. It's just not typical, and so in past practices, those have been kicked back, so it just depends on the strength.
The success rate for approval is lower if we kind of go for...
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Got it.
And what I've seen in the past numbers is you could request 2 levels higher, and they might not do a flat denial. They might just say, we'll approve at a lower level, right?
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so if we, what would the, JK have to go to, I guess it would be level K. What would level K be?
Well, we have it right here. It's in your chart. There's a link to it. So the range for K annual salary is 118 to 131, and L is 112 to 125. So it's about $6,000 more.
Okay.
In each.
Well, and I think, to me, the one, not the one, but a big justification is that the board, it looks like, discussed increasing it in 2017, and somehow that kind of fell through the cracks, and that would have then been at a level L, and then, at this point in time, we would be asking for a level K. So, yeah, yes.
I really think this was very well prepared, and kudos. I'm assuming you did it or whoever did it. It was very, very well prepared, and I do think there's argument. Number one, the amount of time it has transpired. Number two, COVID, and the fact that we didn't have really an opportunity to do a lot in the last 2 or 3 years, because of that. And so I would like to propose that, I would like to propose that we actually go for level K instead of level L. That's my feeling.
If that needs a second, I'll second it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we have a motion on the table. Any further discussion? I have another question. I know when we had, the pre-discussion about this, there was there was some discussion about the current sort of environment and how many have been denied at this point who seemed like they had very good packages. By doing this, it's not like we're going to lessen our chances of getting anything, or what's your, I'm not articulating that very well. I think you know what, you're nodding your head, so.
Yes, I think the package was well written. There's a lot of data and for a long period of time. As Jessica mentioned, CalHR can modify the request or can approve it as such or deny it. So I've seen some that come back and have been modified and just, lessened the level. So we'll submit whatever the board agrees to upon.
Okay, but it's not going to, like, sometimes when you ask for too much, like in a real estate deal, for example, they're like, oh, no, forget it. You know what I mean? And it kind of, like, shuts down the whole deal. So it's not that kind of a dynamic. No. Okay. All right. I don't see, Diana doesn't have her hand up. Do you have more discussion?
I just think that, based on what's being said, there's really no harm in asking for a higher level, because the worst thing that could happen is that they say no to that level, but scaling it down. So
the worst thing that can happen is they say no to any increase.
But I think the packet itself speaks for what has been achieved, and I think for anybody who's looking at the pay scale would realize and recognize the work that is being done. So again, it's all about evidence.
Yeah,
we have all the facts.
We're going to do our best.
Yeah, and that's why I'm thinking there's really no harm in asking for a higher level, because I think the worst scenario would be to be told we can only go up to level L.
Yeah, and I think that going back later to like next year, if we got a level L, we asked for level L and went back later for another increase, they'd be like, well, what has changed? What's more now? So I think making the argument that it's our purview that she deserves level K, then we would be able to stand behind that if we had to ask for that again the following year. Okay.
Yeah, and I think it's important that we not tie this directly to Jessica, though I would love to, but we're talking about a position that whether Jessica remains or not, which I would like to shoot myself if she doesn't know. But nonetheless, this is really an argument that this position is it has a lot more responsibility and a lot more complexity.
Great. Any public comment?
I didn't come in here today thinking I was going to talk about the niceties of the state promotion framework, but to the extent one person on behalf of one organization, an opinion matters. I mean, my word, if this isn't justification for level K, I mean, I don't know what is. I would also note that the top line delta between level M and level L is less than $500 a month. When you extrapolate that out, especially based on the time that we're talking about, 2013, 14, whatever we're talking about, I mean, come on. So wholeheartedly champion that amendment to what's being discussed. With respect to Ms. Sieferman in particular, professional, fair, competent, responsive, those are the words to describe her, and I know Grant Miller very much signs on to those as well. You've been a real pleasure to work with. We don't always see eye to eye. I mean, we never will, given what our respective organizations do, but it's been the rapport that we do have, which is fantastic, is largely due to you. And my hat is off to you. I admire you as an executive officer, and I think you do a great job. So I would very much support a level K and anything above and beyond that for that matter. Thanks.
Okay, well, Bonnie Lutz, I would just like to say that I completely agree with what Mr. Baxter just said, and I wanted to make the point. I actually stayed through this whole meeting today so that I could make these points. But there's only one other attorney in the room, I think, right now. But I think you would agree with me, Tara, that to be able to work with somebody that you have a good relationship with, that you respect, that is professional, makes your life so much easier. And it has been really great working with Jessica. She's extremely professional. She's very responsive. She's very fair. And I do think that since you're looking at protection of the public, I think she's able to settle more cases because we have a lot of mutual respect, and her staff is well-trained, great to deal with. That makes my job easier also because even though I'm very strongly defending my clients, I'm able to settle these cases faster. I'm able to get to the bottom of what the allegations are, and this is all due to Jessica. I've been doing this 23 years. I've done over 2,500 complaints with the Veterinary Medical Board, and everything changed when Jessica came on. So I completely agree with what Mr. Baxter said and with what you're proposing to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Moderator, can you open it up to public comment online, please?
Certainly. We've opened up public comment. If anyone would like to make a comment about the executive officer compensation issue, you're welcome to either click on the hand button to raise your hand or click on the question mark icon and type the word comment into the text box there. We do have a raised hand from Nancy Ehrlich. I'm going to send you a request to unmute your microphone, and you'll have 3 minutes with a 15-second warning. And you're unmuted.
I would just like to concur wholeheartedly with the previous speaker. Jessica has been an amazing EO. I have worked with every EO since the 70s, and there's been no one better than her. She fulfills every thing that she says she's going to. She answers emails. She's just a really terrific person, and I can't thank her enough for being who she is.
Thank you. And I do not see any other requests for comment at this time. Shall I close the public comment feature?
Yes, please.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go ahead and vote.
Dr. Solocito?
Absolutely, yes.
Dr. Grant?
Yes.
Dr. Noland?
Yes.
Ms. Pulowski?
Yes.
Ms. Prado?
Yes.
Dr. Bradbury?
Yes.
Motion carries.
So I'll work with you on that?
Correct. I'll touch base with you after tomorrow after we conclude the evaluation process.
Sounds great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. I got all excited with that, and now I've lost my agenda with my notes on it. I know I have details about them. How did that happen? No, I need mine. It's down here. I apologize. I tried to print everything out because I had a hard time on the screen going back and forth, and I don't know that this is better, but maybe a little bit. So I apologize. Anyway, we are on, I think, our final agenda item for the day, our student liaison reports. Allie from Western University is going to be resigning, I believe, but and Annie Stiles will be observing, or Anna Stiles, I see her on there, so hello, Anna. She's going to be observing to see if this is something that she'd like to participate in. And Holly Masterson is here from UC Davis, and she is going to give her report, and also, it sounds like, giving Allie's report for her. So thank you so much for being here, and take it away.
Thank you very much. I'm very excited to be here as well. This is my first time doing this in person. So just to briefly reintroduce myself, I'm Holly Masterson. I'm a UC Davis liaison taking over for Mandy Ayers. I'm currently in the class of 2026, so I'm a second year, planning on taking the large animal livestock track. And I'm involved in a few different programs like the Livestock Barn on campus. I'm secretary for Theory Genealogy Club, and I'm on the team for animal welfare. I also wanted to briefly apologize again for missing the summer meeting, as I was not receiving emails due to technical issues, but I think we have it all sorted now. So with that, I'd like to kind of get into updates on UC Davis. Since it is still kind of somewhat the beginning of the school year, I wanted to mention a little bit about the class of 2027. So recently we welcomed 150 new individuals into UC Davis, and they are actually our 75th class. So there's been lots of fun jubilations around that. And I also just wanted to mention from a DEI perspective that we are seeing a wonderful increase in students who are of more multicultural backgrounds, as well as more first-generation students. And we're actually seeing an increase in males in our current class. So lovely to see, since I know many people at UC Davis have been working on this. And then I wanted to talk a little bit about our access to care clinics on campus. I know Mandy was always trying to bring lots of updates about those. So recently, Dean Mark Stetter created a new working group to bring together all of the access to care programs, including community surgery, shelter medicine, the Covello Clinic, Knights Landing One Health, the fracture program for rescued animals, and our orphan kitten project. And so we're kind of developing an umbrella organization called Veterinary Access to Care. It's going to be directed primarily by Dean Mark Stetter and co-directed by Dr. Jonathan Deere and Dr. Michael Zaccardi. And they are essentially going to be eventually hiring a full-time faculty member to continue to grow this organization with an overarching goal to demonstrate the impact of bringing veterinary medical care to all populations and communities, regardless of socioeconomic status. There are also 2 additional clinics who are separate nonprofit organizations that are partnered with UC Davis, including Mercer and Davis Pet Advocacy and Wellness. I just wanted to mention those 2 as well. I also wanted to update that currently the Yolo County Animal Control Partnership has been discontinued with our school. So this was previously a required rotation for shelter med focused students. And so now the faculty and staff that were involved with that have been moved back to the Center of Companion Animal Health, and we're currently looking for new partners to fill this area. With that said, having many different friends and peers that are involved in these clinics, it has become apparent that there is just a massive increase in the volume of patients and clients that really want to be seen by all of them. I'm sure the board recognizes this is a common issue everywhere. And at the moment right now, something that I've been hearing a lot is that there is sort of a lack of boarded veterinarians that we can get to join these clinics, as burnout is really intense right now, especially with faculty members at the school. And so I did want to just ask the board at some point if you have any suggestions of what we can do to incentivize veterinarians to join these clinics and give us extra supervision so we can take on more cases. That would be extremely helpful. In other news, the late Dr. Johnson's position has been filled by Dr. Crystal LaRonque. He was previously a Gorley veterinarian, and I know many of you were very close to him, and he had his hands in many different places. So, you know, he had lots of roles that are now slowly being taken up by different community members and faculty. Mandy really wanted me to mention that Dr. Grant Miller has taken over the 3rd year's jurisprudence course, and he's been doing a fantastic job. I know he's not here anymore, but woohoo. Also, in winter, I'll be receiving more information on tracking regarding my 2nd year class as we go into our 3rd year. So I'm looking forward to updating you all a little bit more on where the newest vets are headed and what kind of areas you can expect. And given the shortage, it seems like probably a pretty good idea to keep presenting on. Lastly, I just wanted to ask if there's any specific information that anyone here would like to hear from me in future updates so I can ensure to provide useful information and make sure that I'm really taking advantage of the communication between our school and your board. I'm very much like Mandy. I enjoy solving problems, and I'm happy to hear what you all have to say. All right, so that's everything I have from UC Davis.
Great. Why don't we stop there so that board members can ask any questions they might have, or yes?
Well, she did ask if there's anything that I would like to ask. Actually, we have been experiencing a lot of exodus of shelter veterinarians from shelter systems, and that's one thing that I wanted to know if there's an opportunity maybe for, because COREP is there, you know, but how is the conversation happening at the student level, preparing students with the reality of what's out there in the shelter? It doesn't have to be a full-time job if they don't want to, but at least, you know, participating maybe in the shelters, if that's maybe something that you could kind of, you know, feel the pulse with the studentry of how open they are to, you know, helping out our shelters.
Well, I loved hearing that you're going into large animal because we don't hear that anymore, so that's wonderful. And so I think in that same realm, I mean, just how do students pick, and what is influencing their decision?
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Holly. That was great. I do love the fact that you might bring us some information on tracking students, where they're going and whatnot. And I apologize. I know you've reached out and about, you know, coming to help with those clinics, with some of that spectrum of care clinics. Have you had any feedback from the administration as far as trying to more actively support the faculty in those positions? You know, I think that maybe would be another question, is if that's happening.
So I have not reached out a ton to administration at the moment. They are, you know, forming that new organization, so I think that's one of the ways that they're trying to support their faculty, but I can definitely look more into that. I know it's always kind of been a difficult subject because we can only have so many faculty members and there's so many roles to fill at the university. And so it's definitely an ongoing conversation, but I'll reach out to some people.
Dr. Grant?
I think there probably are a few retired veterinarians in the Davis area that are tired of playing golf every morning, and to be able to have a part-time, you know, gig 2 or 3 mornings a week kind of suits some old guys who don't want to be cleaning windows and, you know, vacuuming and things like that. And then the other thing is, have you reached out for people who want to do equine practice? Have you reached out some very good equine practitioners in the Sacramento area, or be able to go to the racetrack sometimes to see what people do at the racetrack?
Yeah, so a lot of our clubs and organizations on campus try to sort of spread everyone's interest beyond cats and dogs. And we do have a really great equine medicine club that does trips out to the racetrack. I think that a lot of students come into Davis pretty certain of what they want to track, but I think there are lots of opportunities for them to reach out and try new things. Recently, I've just noted from my own class, a lot of students are really interested in wildlife medicine, which is sort of new from what I've been hearing in trends. And so they are actually going the large animal route initially, and then I think some people are actually kind of changing their minds and saying, oh, maybe I like to work with livestock. Maybe this is something that is of interest to me. So I'll definitely sort of report back on what direction my class is going, as well as anything to do with shelter medicine students. We do have a large number of opportunities for people to work with shelter critters at our school. In fact, my roommate is on the board of OKP, which is the Orphan Kitten Project, and we have kittens in our house all the time. So, you know, I think exposure is definitely out there. I think that just the harsh realities of going into a profession like that are a big part of what draw students away.
It's funny, that was what I went to vet school originally to be a wildlife veterinarian, and I took many sheep classes, and just in case I went to New Zealand and the large animal courses, I realized that wildlife medicine was really actually very limited. So, and here I am, a small animal internist. Who would have thought? It would be interesting to track sort of the changes in a student body over the years, but I don't. But that's a larger study, maybe for an MPVM student. But anyway, I think that what were there was Covella, Knights Landing. What were the other parts of the vet access to care group? I know Mercer and Davis were sort of aligned with them. You had just in the very beginning said there was Covella, Knights Landing, and then I think one other.
Yes, so at the school we have the community surgery, which is sort of our fourth years specifically doing surgery on local animals as well as shelter animals. We also have shelter medicine, which was previously with Yolo County, although that has been discontinued. And then, like you said, Covello Clinic is one that is around 2 to 3 times a year. Students go out and stay there for the weekend, and they do a ton of surgery and preventative treatments.
And where is that?
It's in Mendocino County.
Okay.
And then there's the Knights Landing one, like you mentioned, as well as Mercer. Those two are partnered with UC Davis. They're not directly under us.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other two were the Fracture Program for rescued animals, which is where we basically get applications for rescues that need help because they've had an accident and need lots of expensive medical care. And so we try to offer that for them as best as we can and get them adopted out, and also the Orphan Kitten Project.
Okay. And then you guys need help with like small minor procedures and things like that, is that?
Yes, so specifically from Mercer, I think there has been a request for more spots for sort of routine surgeries that you would do in general practice, like mass removals and dentistry and things like that. And Gorley, our teaching hospital, is just filling up like crazy. And so it's just kind of hard to find places to send some of our clients to make sure that they can get a good standard of care and access to that care. So we are kind of trying to look for more spaces where we can perform those procedures.
Okay. Well, thank you. Any other questions? Great. Well, thank you for the UC Davis report. Go ahead with, should we do public comment now or just? That's what I thought. Okay. Sorry for asking, just wanted to make this as streamlined as possible. If you want to go ahead, that'd be great with Allie's report.
Okay, great. She did want to express her sincere apologies for not being here. She had a pet emergency, so I'm sure everyone understands. So I'll do my best to go through her report. She wanted to start off by celebrating Western University's 25 years. So in August, they sang Happy Birthday as the Western University College of Veterinary Medicine celebrated 25 years since the college's Board of Trustees officially established the program. The Western University Board put forth the plan for the college on August 8th, 1998, which led to its launch 5 years later, and this marked the first new college of veterinary medicine in the U.S. for more than 25 years, becoming the 28th program in the nation. The founding dean was Dr. Shirley Johnston, who was the first woman in the nation to lead a veterinary program. So this was a pivotal moment for all of us. Many accomplishments have followed since then, thanks to the stewardship of Dr. Johnson and the leadership of Dr. Philip Nelson, who served as dean from 2008 to 2022, and the tireless work of creative faculty and staff, including John Tegze, not totally sure how to pronounce his name, serving as interim dean since 2022. The college's trend-setting work in problem-based learning and its trailblazing implementation of fully distributive model for clinical education further cemented the college as a leader and innovator. In 2008, the college achieved another milestone by becoming the first veterinary program in the U.S. and possibly globally to embrace and partake in interprofessional education. This dovetails with the college's unwavering dedication to One Health, spotlighting the interconnectedness of human and animal health. And since the college opened in 2003, it has produced more than 1,700 graduates. As an update on their admissions, according to the latest information from the CVM Admissions Office, the Western University recently welcomed 112 new students in the class of 2027. Additionally, application file review for the class of 2028 is in full swing, and as of early this month, there were 411 applications ready for file review and 118 applications eligible for auto review. The deadline for prospective students to apply to Western U was September 18th, but new verified applications continue to trickle in. So far they've received 1,425 verified applications for the prospective class of 2028, which is a 17% increase over the class of 2027. Recently, Western University celebrated National Pet Memorial Day, which was established 40 years ago, initiated by the National Association of Pet Cemeteries and Crematoriums as a way to honor pets past and present, and is held each year on the second Sunday in September. This year, faculty, staff, and students gathered on September 13th to honor pets that had passed on, as well as those enriching our lives each day, which marks the first time that Western U College of Veterinary Medicine had participated in the event. The celebration was led by WAVE coordinator Kathleen Manzanares. Sorry. During this, she took the opportunities to remind attendees about Western U's WAVE, which stands for Willed Deceased Animals for Veterinary Education Program, providing animals to the college for laboratory purposes. Western University's longstanding reverence for life commitment means that no animals are harmed for educational purposes. WAVE and the generosity of pet owners allows the college to maintain that commitment. Continuing on, she talks about the Western University Street Dog Coalition Team, which is a national nonprofit launched in Fort Collins, Colorado in 2015. They offer free veterinary care and related services to pets of people experiencing or at risk of homelessness. This year, the new Western University Pomona SDC team is holding a fall preventative care clinic for pets of unhoused persons in the Pomona County on Sunday, October 22nd. This event marks the organization's third event at Western University, and again, volunteers will be largely comprised of first through fourth year students, several faculty members, as well as some student faculty family members. Last fall, more than 40 dogs and cats received care during the event, and this year they hope to help more than 50. Currently, student organizers are collecting additional donations of pet supplies like dog bowls, leashes, and other items which are helpful to pet owners, and these will be available to those community members at the event. Another announcement, there is a second-year student who is launching a veterinary podcast. True to the Western University trendsetting and community-based nature, Year 2 student Garth Robillard recently launched Veterinary Vibes, which is on the Spotify app. He wants to use the podcast as a platform for people in the field to share their stories and experiences, and ultimately his aspiration is twofold: to inspire individuals considering this remarkable vocation and to bolster the spirits of those already an integral part of it. Several episodes are already available The first was an interview with Western University's very own Dr. Tracy McNamara, and she looks forward to joining him on the next episode where she'll be sharing her decision to pursue veterinary medicine as a second career and personal path to Western University, as well as talking through why emotional and intellectual intelligence are equally necessary for creating a balanced DVM student. So, as Garth would say, come vibe with us if you have a little extra time on your hands. Lastly, she wanted to mention the university's celebration of Veterinary Technician Week. It takes a village to keep pets healthy, and they appreciate that an essential part of that are the skilled and highly dedicated veterinary technicians who go above and beyond each day to deliver the best care to their pet patients and the families that love them. So the National Veterinary Technician Week is upon us, and she wanted to take a moment to celebrate and applaud the critical work of our veterinary nurses. In particular, the Western University CVM community salutes the talented and compassionate technicians who care for animals at their Pet Health Center and East Valley Clinic. All in all, and on behalf of everyone at Western University, Allie would like to extend a sincere thank you to the entire veterinary technician community for the critical role they play in animal health. And this concludes her report.
Great, thank you. Well, we won't ask you questions about her report.
But I'd have any
can you say that name again? No.
Yeah.
Any public comment? Seeing none in the room, moderator, please open it up to the public online.
Certainly, if anyone has any public comment on the report, you can look for the hand icon, click that to raise your hand, or you can look for the question mark icon, type the word comment and click send. Any comments on the student liaison reports? And I do not see any comment at this time. Shall I close the public comment feature?
Yes, please.
Thank you.
So are we recessing?
Recessing.
Okay.
Until 9 a.m.
So we are recessing until 9 a.m. Thank you, everyone.